Okay, I think we're live. I'm pretty sure we're live, John. I think so. It must. Yeah, it must. That's it's ridiculous. Just like every Zoom call starts with, "Can you hear me?" Apparently. Can you hear me, John? No, no, don't do that. You can't listen to yourself twice. That will drive you mad. So yeah, I do have the overlay for the chat working here. This is going to be permanently embedded in the video. Here's hoping that's not a mistake. But it looks like we are good, I think. All right. Yeah, actually, that was really weird. I just saw something pop up on the live overlay before it showed up in the live chat window on YouTube. I don't really know how that's possible. Yeah. Well, I'm already regularly doing that when I chat with you since you are 18 hours ahead of me, right? So how's tomorrow? Is Saturday better than Friday? Okay. Looks like we have a few. Oh, can't hear John. Can't hear John. Yes. Yeah, well, it might be important. Wait, desktop audio is on, but it's not. That's weird. Okay, so which device should it be listening to? How about you listen to that device? Say something, John.
Test, test, test.
All right,
Can you hear me now?
you should be live. Yeah, all right.
Let's
Yes, it
see.
was picking up this wrong sound
Got it.
device.
Working. Hey. Awesome.
Yeah, I picked up I added a USB headset basically here. And so it wasn't, for some reason, that didn't count as part of the normal system audio. It wasn't my default output device, although it should have been. All right. Well, thanks for telling us that you couldn't hear him.
Yeah, that would have been a very boring video.
Would have been a very strange video.
Yeah, that's right. You would feel very psychic, like you're listening to voices.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Leslie, I'm not actually using Linux for the streaming. Shh, don't tell anyone. That's,
Betrayer.
I saw this absolutely terrible joke, and I must now say it. It was it was a tweet. It had hundreds of thousands of retweets or something. So the Dragon capsule is running Linux, right? So the last SpaceX launch, and someone tweeted out, "Oh, we just sent Linux into space," and someone is like, "Oh, that's why in space there's no sound."
Uh, 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 uh.
Now we're old enough to remember when, yeah, we had.
Oh, yeah. Well, I still have that problem. I think with the latest Linux kernel, I had to go in and flip a bunch of switches to get the sound device working again.
Right now, I've got
Good times.
two Raspberry Pis running Linux, but no other device running it natively.
Yeah.
Okay, Raspberry Pi running Linux is kind of like cheating, though. Oh, someone says they were giggling about that tweet for like half an hour. That's funny. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Oh, right. We were going to review my code. Hoping this
Yeah.
font size is good for everyone.
Welcome to part two. Part two, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is part two. What did I label this? Homework review. That's what I learned it. I'm kind of curious. I learned it. What I learned it. That's what I was hoping. Curious if anyone else did the homework. That's what I was trying to say 3 times for the fail. And if they would be following along on their own code. But we'll see if anyone chimes in here.
Code review. Cool.
Yeah. All right. So the thought I thought seemed relatively reasonable was to walk you through what I did, so that there's maybe some perspective, and for the people who haven't seen the code at all, then then that would be why, right? Like I know people It's kind of weird. I create a new repository on GitHub. I have followers on GitHub. And then the next thing I know, like an hour later, there's stars on it. And I'm like, but I don't even have anything in the repository yet.
Yep. Yep. When we started working on New Shell, we had it
Oh,
public, but we never told anyone about it. And people were jumping in and sending PRs. I'm like, what? It's not even a thing yet. There's like 10 lines of code. What are you doing?
okay, so someone just alerted me to the fact that my cloud bot is currently incorrect in what it is saying, what is going on here, because it's putting up things
See,
like this video will
yeah.
not be available later. So all emojis are banned.
So you're not using NeoVim.
I'm using VS Code.
Yep. We are reviewing your Rust code. The video will be available later.
All right, I'm going to get a quick link to the project so that when people see this come up, it will make sense to them. Sorry for the delay, but like you said, this is how all live streams go, I think. All right, so this is the game of life. All emojis are banned. I'm using VS Code for the IDE, and we're reviewing this code. Bam. Okay, go. Updated that. Yes, emojis are banned because I had serious problems with spam on my first long live stream. It was nasty. It was nothing but emoji spam. It was ridiculous.
It's weird.
Yeah. Okay.
People are bored.
I just graduated. I wasn't prepared to start doing homework again. That's funny. All right. No, I think it was bots. It wasn't people doing it. It was bots. It was actually creative bots because they were taking messages from other people and reposting the same messages, but with a bunch of emoji on like spam accounts. And honestly, I think they were mostly adult content spam accounts,
I see.
which is just, yeah, it's
All
unnecessary.
right.
All right, here we go.
Let's jump in.
So I started from the code that we last left off on at the end of the last stream, which was basically just a square in SDL and Rust that was rotating through colors. And I just started building on top of that. But the idea is that I'm making a game of life simulator, which I've never successfully done before. I played with one that I actually wrote in C++, and that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was that I tried to get it running on my own ARM emulator, and my ARM emulator wasn't correct. So I wasn't able to actually execute it. That's just that's, yeah, not a fault of that code. So this HSV code, by the way, this is... I just wanted a different color space to play in instead of RGB. As far as I could tell, SDL didn't have any HSV code because I wanted smoother color rotation for the background. So I was just going to rotate through the 360 degrees of the hue and then convert that to RGB. But I could not get the math for it working. This is totally broken. I copied the math from the from Wikipedia, but I could not tell which parts of it should have been integral math and which parts of it should have been floating point math. So I get a choppy colors, which isn't what I wanted. So I just quit doing that. So this is dead code. Honestly, it should be deleted, or I, at the very least, moved into a different file, right? I did the newbie thing of just splatting everything in one folder of one file, which I know is not ideal. I was learning some Lambda action here. Yeah. Okay. So whatever. That's my HSV code. And then I have my actual game of my life board here, which at some point I wanted to make a copy of it and then had to figure out how to make it clonable. That was something that we talked about last 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I made it clonable, and I'll explain why in a moment. These guys are not currently being called Blinker and Glider. Now I think this, for if you don't know the game of life, I'm just going to pull this up real quick. I wanted an easy way of pasting these things into here. These kind of well-known constructs in the game of life, partially just to prove that what I was doing was correct. So I have just a helper function that says right here on the game board, put a glider or put a blinker. Those are the only two that I created.
Just for some background for people that aren't familiar with the game of life or cellular automata at all, you have a grid, and the grid, each cell in the grid is either alive or dead. And the way that you know is that you kind of take a snapshot, and then you look around each of the live cells. And if a certain condition is met, then it's allowed to continue. So the next frame or the next generation, after it's run through the whole grid, then you see who survives into the next generation. And then you run it again and see who survives in the next generation. And then over time, you get these kind of emergent phenomena that happen. From very simple rules, you can get a really complex interaction of these living cells.
We did do that at the exact same time, yes. So I just highlighted the rules here for people who are watching the stream from the Wikipedia page.
So this is the traditional rule. 2 or 3 neighbors keeps you alive, more than 3 kills you, less than 2 kills you.
And so there is some temptation to just go through and evaluate each cell and say, how many neighbors does it have? Change its state. How many neighbors does it have? Change its state. If you do that, that's wrong, right? I'm pretty sure that's wrong because you're changing the state as you move forward. So you need to take a snapshot, do the update. And so that's one reason why I needed to make my game board copyable. I have blinker and glider. These things aren't being called right now, but I think that they are. That's why they're squiggled, I think. Yeah, it's never used. Okay. I thought about binding these to some SDL keys so I could hit B or something and have it just place a blinker somewhere randomly on the board, but I didn't get that far. So randomize takes the current game board and just randomizes the state of everything in it. Oh, I want to take a step back. I wanted to make the game board a generic based on the type of cell, because I started thinking, because when we posted this, the homework was that you could parameterize. If you could parameterize the rules, then that's bonus points, right? I think that's what you said. So I thought, well, if I can parameterize the rules, then why not have cells that have more than one state? So I wanted to parameterize on that. So I tried to make this a generic, and everything worked until I got to the actual, oh, my code is terribly organized. Right here. Until I got to the actual parameter, this thing that I've called next value, which is a function pointer that takes a uint32 and a uint32, that's the x and y coordinates, the current life board to pass into itself, and then an output of Boolean for what the next state should be. When I tried to parameterize the struct, I could not get this being the type to compile. I just could not get it to compile. And I tried for an hour, and I said, never mind, it's going to be a Boolean board. So I actually have a tag, or the previous in this branch's history that we maybe, depending on how long we stay on the air, we'll go back to, and I'll ask you what in the world I did wrong, if anything, or if this is a limitation of doing generic structs in Rust.
Right.
And just from a C++ perspective, I totally would have made these value template parameters so that it was compile time decided what the size was. And as far as I could tell, that was not possible in Rust.
Right. That's what I get for going back and forth between Rust and TypeScript. I know TypeScript can do that. I can't remember if Rust has compiled constants that you can use as part of the type. Maybe people on the class generics are not possible. Christopher was saying.
Wait. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just looking at the chat. So one of the folks in the chat is a longtime Rust person.
Yeah, someone just said that's a terrible way to write Rust, but expected from a C++ background. But I don't know what specifically they're referring to.
We're not trying to make judgments here. we'll take the code, we'll evolve it. It'll get better.
Is there an indim array crate? I don't know. I
Yeah, they
tried.
are.
I looked for multi-dimensional arrays in Rust, and people are like, "You can make a vector. I know that's a bad idea, so I didn't do that because now I'm creating 32 vectors instead of one, and I'm going to be at least somewhat concerned about performance."
Right.
All right. So one of the things that I did was to make the calculation or the border cases easier. So if a glider or something is going off the edge, I wanted it to at least have the option to wrap around. So then I did this wrap coordinate thing, and it's like a parameter here if I want it to be able to wrap around or not. Otherwise, it just returns false. So that's why this is taking an I64 instead of a U32, because I wanted you to be able to take any point on the game board and just ask for its neighbors, and then it would just wrap around if it needed to. So -1 if it was a -1 coordinate or whatever seemed like a good way to do it.
Okay.
This almost certainly could have had some sort of algorithm or something applied. I don't know. It was fun trying to find the syntax for
inclusive range. Yeah.
Inclusive range, which is funny because I'm trying to find the syntax for inclusive range here, and then I don't need to walk through line by line in the code, I guess. So where did that go? And in one of the pattern matching blocks things that I'm doing, I tried to use exclusive range there, and it's like, oh no, exclusive range is still an experimental feature for matches, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine, and then I'll use an inclusive range or whatever, vice versa. This one, yeah,
right,
because I wanted to do 0.60, and it's like, oh no, that's an error because that's an experimental feature, so I just put the equals there. All right, yeah, that was in the code that didn't work anyhow. Whatever. So it's so this is my parameter, or this is my Conway rule. So this is a standalone function, and I did use a pattern matching thing here to say, am I currently alive? How many neighbors do I have, etc. And I make the game board, and then let's see. So I have a history of life, and I'll explain that in just a moment here, just for the fun of it, because I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting. And then on each frame, actually, what does I do? On every third frame, I update the current state. So I get the next from the top of the stack of the history of life. I say what would be the next state, and I push that back onto the stack of the history of life. So I can keep a stack up to 10 elements deep. And then for however many elements I have, I draw a history. So just for the fun of it, I guess I'll hit play and show what my actual implementation looked like. Why doesn't it have the play button?
I do not know.
Failed to save. Content of the file is newer. What?
Did you have like a checkout or something?
It says that I've got pending changes, but no, that's not. It's telling me that I have no diffs, and therefore I have diffs, and therefore I have to. What? Okay. By the way, I'm not monitoring this stream at the moment. My brain's a little occupied. So if there's something interesting that we need to address.
I should keep an eye on the chat a little bit.
Close that. What is the reload button?
You need to switch file tabs for it to show the run button. Really?
What? But
So
I was on this file tab, and now it's here.
Weird.
And it's still telling me fail to save. Okay, so
Oh,
it started with a random board, and now it's playing things out. The bright white squares are the most recent state of the game of life, and then it is just showing you a kind of grayed out history of all of it going. And I don't know how well the stream's going to work here for this, but hopefully it looks pretty good. So yeah, so it's just playing out the state until it gets to some stable state. I almost went through the effort of saying, okay, since I'm keeping a stack of 10 history anyhow, can I say whether or not it has now entered a cycle and then like pop up a message, the game is complete or something like that, which is
right.
it's doable, but these cycles could be, 20, 50 deep.
Yeah, extremely long.
It could be extremely long, but it seems like on the average case, it does this.
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
I am going to kill Visual or VS Code here so that we don't have to deal with not being able to save. But that's what I got. And then I played with some stuff about like automatically, like every 100th frame, dump a glider in.
I was wondering what that was for.
Yeah, just to like keep it going, right? So you can watch, it's going to dump it approximately right here. So, unless it didn't save because of that. Oh yeah, it couldn't save because of
There
that.
it is. Oh, I see a glider.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no, it should be dumping it right here. The other ones are just happening like emergent. I'm going to try to make this happy again. Did it save or not? No, it did save it. All right. So I have lots of unwraps. I learned a few things. I believe I did. Some of the things that made me go, maybe this isn't a good idea. Or if I was having to do explicit cast, those would be things that I would say in C++, probably not good code. So I'd re-architected things a little bit so I didn't have to do that. And a few places I have unwrap, which I felt like was not great code, but they are in cases where I absolutely know 100% that there has to be at least one history item here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have ever gotten to this state. So I found that a little frustrating, but that's what I had to do as far as I know. So I'm sure there's lots of people saying the sphere indicator is indicating it's the contents of the file is not newer. What happens if I hit overwrite? Overwrite it. Are you happy now?
It might just be some kind of like bad cache that it picked up. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Oh, that is weird.
Oh, that is weird.
I don't feel like these tools for VS Code are, shall we say, 100% stable.
No. So I think you were saying in the last stream that Rust Analyzer is like a 0.2 or something.
Right.
It's definitely getting better, and it's getting better really quickly, but even still, like it's still got a little ways to go.
You can see my gliders being launched from right there every 100th frame.
So people are already starting to guess some of the things I'll mention. So this is fun.
All right, cool. All right, so
at
this point, should I give you control?
I don't know. How do we want to do it? Last time I just kind of was talking.
Okay.
I can try to do what the heck is that called? I should know this. The code sharing thing with VS Code. We can try that as well.
I think we might have a minor problem that if I bring that up right now, whatever magic links it gives me will be visible.
Yeah, and then like everyone can jump in.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Let's just do it the way we did before.
Okay.
So one of the things that I would personally start with, and this is like up to your tolerance, but the first thing I would do is get rid of the warnings.
Sure. I have no problem with that. Now, part of my problem is if it's warning on every single unused thing.
Yep.
Well, it's not used at the moment.
Right. Do you want to try to get the HSV stuff working also?
No, I don't unless you understood where the math went wrong. But
No idea.
so I can
let's go ahead and trim all that out.
Okay.
And then I don't think you need this struct either.
Oh, right. 0 implementations.
Okay. So you have a, go ahead and hit save or build or. So what I realized when we were doing that stream before, that I have a setting where it runs the static analysis every time I hit save.
Okay.
So I was like, just hit save, it'll work. But then I forgot that you need to configure that in your settings for that to work.
What do I do?
If you pull up your the gear.
The gear. All right.
Then what is this thing called?
Settings, extensions.
Yeah, settings.
Okay.
Then extensions from here.
Oh, okay.
And then towards the bottom, there should be a Rust analyzer. Yep.
Oh, I see. And that didn't. Oh, okay. So I might have been able to get here from just hitting this button.
You might have been. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, might have been. And if you scroll through here, there might be there's a couple of things we'll change in a minute, but save features, check features. Yep.
It does. So that is checked.
Yeah. And then scroll down a little bit further.
Okay. Oh, all targets, I see.
And then one more, where it says check on save enable. So it should be running the check on a save.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
Okay. So do we want to go back to the code?
Yep.
So
something that I was noticing is like it's still the underlines are still wrong.
Yes, the underlines. Yes, you're right. So if I rerun cargo build, then it cleared it. So let's just chalk that up to still relatively unstable Rust analyzer.
So we might have to do that throughout the stream.
Yeah.
To try to keep things up to date.
I was doing that when I was programming as well. I was like, okay, you decided not to update things this time. Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's look at. We're just going to bounce around. The review is going to be a little random itself, I think. But all right. So why is line 5 giving you a warning?
When I am using random.
When you are using random.
Yeah.
So why is that? And the reason is that a use statement, correct me if I'm wrong, a use statement in C++ is pulling in a set of names into scope. So you'd say like, what is the command to give all of the std into your...
Yeah, using namespace std.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would mean now you no longer have to pre-pin std in those cases.
Right.
In this case, you're reaching into a module and getting a particular function out. And you're saying, I don't want to have to, special type this name. I don't want to have to give its fully qualified name. I can just say random, and then that will refer to the random that's in the rand crate. So you use it down a little bit further.
Hold on a second, John. Sorry. I'm getting your audio breaking up. I'm checking to see if it's anything on my side. It doesn't look like it's
I'm hearing your audio breaking up also.
Come on now, computer. Just a second. I'm not getting any warnings from YouTube, which is weird. I would expect. That's funny.
Interesting. So some people are saying that my audio is not breaking up for them. How's that possible?
I have no idea. Come here, you. It's my computer. Why is it my computer? This is incredibly annoying. It's what I think it is. Be pissed off. Oh, YouTube's not receiving enough data. Yeah. Uh, All right. Is everything clear now?
Sounds clear to me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, whatever was taking up all my CPU, ran into the shadows the second I pulled up Task Manager. So lately it's
Oops, I
been.
didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. You have no idea just how annoying this has been for me. It seems that when this happens, it is Microsoft's whatever scanner deciding that my computer is idle at the moment, which it is very much not idle at the moment. Right. And this has been happening.
You're just not typing in that particular keyboard or whatever.
I don't know. It's been the last couple of weeks. I think we should be back. Yeah, people are saying, are we back? It's back. All right. Sorry about that. I just have to, at the moment, I have to blame Microsoft. Legit. And I find it very annoying. Let me just double check a couple things before we get this going a little bit more. Okay, yeah. Firefox is taking up the rest of my CPU. So I'm going to shut that down just to have one less variable. Yeah, go away. Go away.
You've now dissed on both companies I've worked for the last 10 years. That's cool.
Have I made fun of Apple yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, we'll get there. All right, so if I need to look anything up on that computer, I can't, but at least that just freed up 4 gigs of RAM. Okay, how are we doing?
So we're back. Yeah. We're back. So let's jump into what I was about to say, which was, why is this thing warning about random?
Yes.
So if you go look to see where you're using random lower in the code.
Yes. Yes, here.
Right. So you're using the fully qualified name there, which means you don't need to actually import it.
Okay. So I was unsure if I needed to do something to say, yes, in fact, I am intending to use rand at least here.
Right.
But you're saying if I remove that, it should be all good.
That's right. You used to. So remember we were saying before about Rust 2015, 2018 are like these main additions or standards of the language.
Right.
So with Rust 2018, you no longer need to explicitly say, I'm using this external crate over here, this rand crate. It will figure it out from the context.
Okay.
Yeah, like Chris was saying, this basically just shortens the path to get to that name.
I find it slightly disturbing in a sense that I'm like, so how does it know? Is it, I mean, I definitely have to do this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's required. So that will let Cargo actually go find it and get the correct version for you. But once all that's done, now it's available to Cargo and the compiler to say, all right, go find me the crate named rands and this symbol in rand, and it will go and find it for you.
And so it doesn't matter like how many RS files or whatever that I have in this project. They all have access to all of these things.
Not into each other. Only your project out to those crates.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Each one will have its own Cargo TOML file that will be its little isolated world of symbol names.
Used to need to. Okay. So what is the best practice here? Is it to fully qualify the name or is it to pull it in?
I think this is like up to the programmer. I tend to use fully qualified names when I really want to be very specific to say like, you know, I mean, this name is very general. I don't want you to confuse what I'm talking about. So this is the random is pretty obvious. You mean random. But if it's like get item, you might want to say what the heck an item is using the fully qualified name. So
I would say, are there Rust projects that are yet multi-million lines of code?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because the experience in the C++ world is, generally speaking, once you get to a very large project, fully qualifying the name is generally a better idea, because now you know that it's not my random, it is in fact the random from the rand crate.
Right. And again, I think some of that will be context sensitive and project sensitive.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so that's why it was warning there. Draw blinker, draw glider. These are your helper functions that you're not actually using.
Yeah, I am now using the glider one since I put in that timed glider insert.
That's right.
But yeah, I don't want to remove these functions. Can I mark them as saying it's okay?
Yeah, you can do. People gave me guff because I can't remember the compiler invocation to turn these things off. All right, I think it's hash, and then square brace, and then allow, and in parentheses unused.
It started to autocomplete it. Used, unused.
Something like that.
Okay, now I still get a part of it. Okay, so it did. So there's an IDE. I think this is more an IDE bug than anything else.
All right, I'm reading the chat.
Allow dead code? Oh wait, some people are saying allow dead code and some are saying allow unused.
Either one.
Okay. Or something.
So maybe dead code's the correct one. Not sure.
So I feel like it should be like this.
Like dead beef.
Yeah. Sorry, we're old. Sorry, it was dead code. It's interesting to me that it didn't. So they seem to be doing basically the same thing. I'm not getting any. What do I need to do? Control-Shift-B. Control-Shift-B to build. Sure. Okay, yeah, so either one took that away. All right. I don't like that. If unused does the same thing, then I would do that.
Yeah, just use that. Some people are saying if you want to ignore all unused code, there is a way to like pin one of these pragmas at the top of the file.
Oh no, I don't want to do that. No.
Yeah, exactly. I would prefer not to do it that way. Just so we can see one at a time to make sure that we intend it to not be used.
Yeah, that's definite code smell. If you start looking at someone's build script in C++ land and you see like 14 different warnings disabled, you're like, nope. Whatever you're doing, it's wrong. Yeah. Okay.
You say that now. We'll see. See if you still agree in an hour.
Maybe. Can I mention an annoyance?
Sure.
When I was implementing some of these things and I was trying to decide between I-64, U32, depending on the context and whatever, I'm like, okay, so it's going to be a hard error if I try to pass a U32 to something expecting an I-64, even though that's never going to be a problem.
Right.
Like it can't be a problem. There's no overflow possible, else bits are representable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a hard error. All right, now what do I do? So, well, I can't create an overload because there's no overloads in Rust. And then I'm like, okay, fine. What I really want is a function that will take any integer. So I go and look for an integer trait to allow me to do that. Oh, sorry, integer traits don't exist. We experimented with it once and then removed them because they didn't do quite what we wanted them to do. And I'm like... that was my frustration. Yeah. But it pushed me into code. Like I said, once I started realizing, okay, explicit cast everywhere, that's clearly bad. It forced me from the perspective of not wanting warnings and errors in the code to have to pick a type and pick what my interface was going to be and stick with it. So ultimately, I'd say it's a good thing, but it really did annoy me for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are kind of mentioning there is some techniques that you can use. Maybe we'll explore those later. Using from and into. I don't know if you came across those.
No, I only saw at. I tried one of them and it didn't work for me, but
yeah, at does basic type conversions, so you could, or as does basic type conversions. But into is like the more general mechanism. So you can take in a type and you can say, all right, anything that implements into I64.
Right.
And if it implements that, then you can just pass the U32. I'm not sure off the top of my head if it does, but if it does, you can just pass it in. And then inside the method or function, you can call the into method on it, and it will automatically convert to the type.
I still feel like, though, ultimately the better thing was that I just figured out what types I should be using.
I tend to think if you have to cast a lot, then you're definitely leaning towards a code smell at that point, because it feels like you haven't got your data model quite clean enough just yet.
I teach, when I'm teaching C++, I teach that any cast is a code smell even. And I also teach you should enable warnings on all type conversions where you can. Right. Although I don't know of any C++ compiler that warns from U32 to I64, basically, because
it's a lossless conversion.
Yeah. I'm going to attempt to adjust my camera real quick, just so we can. I just realized I'm not looking into your eyes. This is it is a very stiff camera mount. All right, well, that's slightly better. Now it doesn't look quite like I'm staring off into this distance when I'm trying to make eye contact with you. Okay. Although now I'm all washed out. Yes, all right. So we allowed unused copy of Blinker. I'm going to mark glider as that also, because...
Sure.
Now, if these were in another file entirely and I made them like helper functions in a library or something like that, clearly you're going to have code in your library that's not called internal to your library anyhow.
That's right.
Although I guess your test should ultimately mean that's all of it's called.
I mean, one would assume, but if it's part of the public interface of the crate, then they can never say that this is unused, because someone consuming the crate could actually use it.
I've had, two people ask me to move the terminal pane to the right. Can I move the terminal pane to the right?
Terminal pane to the right. So it's...
no, it don't do nothing. Oh, wait. Hey, it started to move somewhere.
How did you do that?
If I get angry enough with it, it will let you drag it somewhere. No, it does nothing.
You could split the top part. So the top right, there's a little rectangle.
That thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, can you drag the terminal as one of the tabs over there?
I don't know. I just closed it. Next time it comes up, I'll try to drag it over.
Impossible.
I don't need that. I'll do the build again. So it pops up the terminal window. All right, now, like I said, I have to get very angry. Okay, there we go.
Does that work?
No.
Does anyone know how to do this?
Well, if someone asked, right-click on the pane.
Right-click on the pane.
Move panel right.
Whoa.
Okay.
Guess you can close that one.
Yeah, I can close that one. This is definitely not how I would work, because that's...
Yeah, I've never done this before.
Kind of unreadable.
It's kind of cool, though.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, yeah, those are intentionally unused. Okay, so yes. All right. We are back.
Right.
I hope people don't mind our crazy style.
This is what we're like in person, by the way.
That's true.
Especially when we're around each other. Okay. So we've got those two unused. Keep going down.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were going to give me some better way of looping. Oh, I wanted so bad to make my board game iterable. So I could just say iterate.
I wanted to say that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's got to be a way to do it.
It needs to return a tuple of x, y, and to the current value or something like that for what I need.
We'll play with that later to see if we can get that to work. I was thinking that should be possible too, but I didn't really sit down to come up with a way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's kind of crunch through these warnings just to get.
Oh, sorry. So is there a shortcut here that takes me to the next warning?
There is. Now, if I can remember, I do not remember.
F3? No.
There is. Yeah, something like that.
F4? No.
F8?
Command palette. Next.
Error? No.
Go to next problem.
Hey, F8. I was
Alt F8. Alt F8. Oh, well, I'm on the next problem.
Right. So what is this one?
I don't know. What is it? Oh, unused result.
Result must be used. Right.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
So if you did like a question mark here would basically convert, we would take the result, and then if it's an error, immediately return with that error rather than continuing. If it's okay, it doesn't care because you're not assigning it to anything. But it at least gives you the assurance that you're not continuing it in an error case.
No, I thought from what you last taught me. Okay, let's see. There's a different squiggle here. Oh no, okay, that's just the IDE screwing up. So this error, I thought the result types had to match. So what is this?
Do.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you hover over set scale.
Yeah. Oh, so its result type actually is an error string in this case. So the SDL2 wrapper for Rust is pretty inconsistent, it seems. In some cases, it's a meaningful thing. Sometimes it's a string. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Which I would find really annoying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing, and I find it a little annoying. Yeah.
It doesn't implement error either. So if you wanted to say this thing returns either, an empty value or something that is an error type, you can't even say that because it's returning a string.
I just got a comment that the chat overlay is terrible because of the terminal window that's now on the right, which, just for the record, you all requested that I move the terminal to the right. I'm gonna do this because I think it's the best option for the sake of this.
Did we do that before? Oh, right.
Move to bottom, and I'm just going to keep it closed. I think this is the best thing. Okay. Okay, so this is an acceptable solution?
Yeah, this is fine. If those types align, this is going to be the common pattern that you see. It's a lot of question marks, meaning check it. If it errors, exit. If it doesn't, continue with this value.
Okay. All right. So what was that? Alt F8?
Yep.
Which doesn't necessarily do...
Well, it's because it's got the old warning there that it still thinks is an error or warning.
Run the build to do the thing, and then hit the Alt F8. It's not taking me to any other warnings. I'm just going to scroll down. I see the yellow bar.
Yeah, just try F8. Right. Okay, so what does this one say?
Oh, F8. Doop, 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 doop. Oh, sorry. I was having fun making the thing expand. Okay.
Right.
Yes. Right. So this one I found a little annoying as well because I'm looping over. Now, granted, it's my own width and height. It is entirely possible that...
Right.
Oh, no, wait. Hold on a second. Unused, must use, result, error. Okay, I'm definitely confused.
Yeah, what is the type of the at method?
The type of the at... let's see, I can get there like that. Is just a bool. I am using the result of that function. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's very strange. Why is it saying that there's an unused result?
Is this? I don't think this is another. Oh, maybe it is another broken.
Maybe it's that one. Yeah, maybe it's on drop point instead of.
Okay, yeah.
And the underline was just wrong. Okay, yeah. And then here you can see the result type is the same, like empty value or string. So we can do the same question mark here.
Well, at least that's something. Okay. So it would be, it's a panic in either case, right?
Nope. Well, an unwrap would be a panic. Like if you said this is this should be an okay value, just unwrap it, and it's an error value, then that will immediately panic, bubble all the way up the call stack, and then barf out the top.
Okay.
The oh, you're getting an error.
Yeah, sorry. Oh,
because you're in, okay, right. So you can't do it in this particular case because we're using this Lambda.
I am in a Lambda.
Yeah, we have a couple of options here. You can't, so that question mark works really great if you're kind of in the flat code of that function. But when you start embedding inside of functions, it's less happy.
Okay.
So we can either match on the type and do something in the case that it fails. We can allow it, we can swallow the error. So some people might think that is not a good practice. I do this sometimes if you know that if it fails, just it's okay for it to fail sometimes. It's more of a lossy type of function.
Okay.
So if you're drawing a point, so you could say like let underscore equals and then run the value, and it will swallow whatever comes out of that function.
Okay.
I would be tempted to do it here just for now, unless we want to refactor this Lambda so that we can bubble the error all the way out.
Honestly, I'm very confused why in the world it is possible for a point object to generate an error.
It's the draw point method.
Is it the draw point? Are you sure?
Yeah, if you hover draw points. Okay, so it says the function blah 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 blah. So
okay.
Shows enter point, and then it has a result of the empty value in string.
Okay.
And we're not doing anything with it. We're running it and saying, well, it could fail. So
if I try to draw a point that was outside the canvas bounds, for example, then maybe I would get an error. Okay. Okay, so what do we do then?
So we have a couple of options. One that I was just saying for the sake of brevity would be saying let underscore equals and then run, and that will swallow the warning.
Underscore equals, so like literally this?
Yeah, and then the previous line, move it up. Yeah.
Right, so it's just saying whatever was returned from this thing, I don't care.
I don't care if it's an error. This is a lossy kind of thing.
And we don't love that because, yeah, we're...
Right, no. Is it going to warn it? Oh, it's because you haven't built. Okay, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yay. Are we 0 warnings now? That's awesome.
I think we are. Yeah. Okay. So is that, I mean, what are our reasonable options?
So when I was looking at this, again, I didn't really dig like super deep, but because you're making a Lambda and then you're immediately using it and you're using it nowhere else, I would just take that and either make this a real function, so that would be one possibility, or take this code in the body of it and move it into the loop.
Yeah, so yes, right. I am using the Lambda, let's see, exactly here. So I'm using it to draw each of the life boards in my history.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say you wanted to keep it as a function. Mm-hmm. You could take draw as the Lambda and move it all the way out and make a function out of it.
Like,
so you're still
not
inside
here.
of a function?
Yeah, I'm still inside of a function.
Top level function.
Yeah.
Main is epic, by the way.
Min is
It's very
epic.
big.
It's only the entire project's 200 lines of code. I don't feel like it's that big.
It's fine. It's fine.
That actually, it's funny because I was prototyping some code recently in C++, and I'm like, man, this function is just huge. This is ridiculous. I gotta split this up, and I'm looking at like the entire file is 250 lines of code. I'm like, well, that is weird. I wouldn't normally think that seemed huge. I wonder why I think this is huge. And then but some of the code that I'm dealing with clients is like files that have like 30,000 lines of code in a single file. And then I'm like, maybe Java is a good idea. No. Okay. So I'm capturing the canvas in my Lambda here. So I need to make that a parameter. Okay.
That's right.
Draw.
It's a southern draw function.
I just call it draw. So it needs to take a canvas, a mutable canvas, right?
Yep.
I have no idea what the type of canvas is.
I don't either. Okay,
it is a canvas window.
Window, right.
Oops. So this is how it went for me for several hours.
Turn around.
Okay, we'll put this over here. All right, fine. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
And then I need to make it. And then I would go, okay, where does the mutt live?
Yeah.
Is it right here? Is it before the colon? Is it after colon?
It tends to migrate depending on the type. It's a little weird.
Is it really?
Yeah. So if you wanted to pass in and give up ownership to the canvas and say, this thing is mutable and I give you ownership, the mutt goes before canvas. But because this is a mutable reference, the ampersand and mute go and become one thing. And then you get the type after that.
I thought you all would have learned the same lessons from us about where const is supposed to go, which no one knows what it means. Well, if you have a const pointer to a const reference, or a const pointer or a pointer that is a const pointer, or whatever, not a pointer to a const reference, you can't do that, but whatever. Like, yeah, okay. So that sounds to me basically what you're talking about. Is the object that you're passing in mutable, or is the handle to it mutable? It kind of sounds like. Right. So this would not be invalid code. That is a mutable handle to a mutable object.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I've never seen that before.
Okay.
Take the ampersand and the mute and make that one thing.
Oh, really?
It's
like
good.
That?
For me, that's very... I'm not sure if it's technically correct to have this space or to be allowed to have this space, but 99.9% of the time they'll be together.
I did rely on this
format.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I didn't change anything. All right. Oh, I just made it sad. Why did I make it sad? I cannot find canvas in the scope. Why is it sad about that?
So, so this canvas is coming. That type isn't one that you typed in. It's coming from the analyzer.
Yes.
So you'll need to bring canvas into scope.
Did it? It didn't. Oh, it's unnameable here. So it would be like
something.
Something.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from.
We have to figure that out, don't we?
Yep.
There's probably people telling us what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, apparently there's a fix for it. There's an IDE command that you can run that will automatically fix that for you.
Okay, what is it?
If you click the light bulb, Christopher is saying.
Oh.
Hey, fancy.
See, now is that the solution I wanted though? Because now I've got more imported globally. This is my problem with IDEs in general. It's not a concern about Rust. It's like,
Right.
I have a solution. And I'm like, particularly as a C++ person, like, yeah, but that's the wrong solution.
Right. Well, okay. So remove this, and I'll show you one other thing that you can do if you don't want this globally. Oh, actually, you do have to do it here. Never mind. Never mind.
Wait.
You can limit the scope to those names being in. You can limit the scope to where those names are visible. But because this is a top level function, you can't really do that. It has to be able to see it.
Now it's funny is I don't remember what it actually said that was under.
Me neither.
I
guess you could have an auto-completing or
replace qualified.
what is going on?
Whatever, it's fine. Okay, we'll just go with that. Yeah.
Right.
So surface canvas. All right, fine.
So that's not what it was. You just told it to replace with the wrong thing that you typed in.
Yeah. Aborting due to previous errors. Oh, right. So my draw function is now incorrect. But there's also cannot find type window in this scope. Can you fix that? Can you?
Yeah, apparently.
Import window.
Handy.
There's one right there.
So if you go up to the top, one of the imports is wrong also.
Really?
Yep. So service canvas is not correct. So you typed that in and then told it to refactor it and put it up at the top there.
Oh, and it should be render canvas.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, people got it. Render canvas.
Mob programming. Okay, so now we're to expected errors, I think. Oh, wait.
Yep.
No, that's semicolon. Okay. That's interesting. That's a hard error.
Yeah, I think it probably comes from the fact that Rust is value-based. So semicolons have a very specific meaning in Rust.
I thought about that because I remember you mentioning it while I was working on the lambdas and such. Like, okay, what's the most efficient way to return from this function or whatever?
Right. You need an and mute.
Oh,
because canvas will be mutable.
You're mutable. All right.
I am.
Render, please read chat more. Yeah, I mean, we're doing what we can. We got it. Yeah, use clippy. Sure. Okay. And this remove. Huh?
What?
I think it was just telling me that was something that it is capable of doing.
I see.
I feel like I need to do a full update or something of...
Yeah, it feels like it's kind of in a weird state. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. What's the reload button again?
If you pull up the tool, yeah, reload window.
I'm just going to do that. Let's see if I can... Nope.
Oh, so those are deleted. That's coming from your Git markers.
Oh, is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would be...
So if you click on it, it'll say like what was deleted.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah, I see that now. That shouldn't be red. That's... Well...
This is distracting.
Yeah. Okay. So it compiles now. So we've taken my... where did that go? I have no idea. Draw function. Make a life, blah, blah, blah. Draw. We moved draw out. That's what we did here.
Right. All right, so there's one thing I was going to suggest that we also try. Someone I just saw mentioned it in chat, which is using clippy instead of check.
So they're not referring to the Microsoft Office thing.
No.
I honestly, I assumed I thought they were being snarky.
Little paperclip comes up.
Yeah.
I think clippy is installed by default. So if you go to the terminal and run cargo space clippy, we can just kind of check real quick to see if it's available.
I don't remember how to get to the terminal.
How does it work?
Terminal. New terminal? Sure, whatever. Yep. If I do what now?
There you go. Cargo space clippy.
Not slippy. Oh, someone. Whoa, what in the?
Lowercase c.
Yeah. Okay, that was weird. It took several seconds for the terminal to return again. Okay, what does that do?
There may not be any clippy warnings. If you say cargo clean, cargo space clean, and then cargo clippy, I don't know what version of Rust you're running.
Whichever one you had me install.
Yeah. I assume that's new. Yeah, it's not new enough to do that. So newer versions of Clippy will give you the set of warnings that each time you build, but slightly older versions you have to clean and then rebuild. Okay. So this is a set of additional. This is like we went through warning level 1, and Clippy would be like the next warning level, let's say.
Well, wait, how come no one told me this existed before now?
Now you know.
Replace it with.
Huh?
So done it,
if you go, yeah, the way I would kind of do this is if you go into your settings. In fact, I think someone was just suggesting this. Your IDE settings for Rust Analyzer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that was here, extensions, Rust Analyzer.
Yep. And then
extension settings.
Settings.
Okay.
Yep. And if you scroll down.
Yeah.
It says.
Oh, there's many things here.
Yep.
Sorry.
So scroll up just a little bit.
Yes.
So it says Rust Analyzer check on save command. It says check. So type clippy there.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
Yep. So now we're starting to see a bunch of new warnings pop up.
So I'm going to close that. I'm going to just clear out the space here. And now if I save, oh, sad.
This is good.
There's so many more warnings.
Yeah, I know.
Unneeded return statement. So this is, yeah, you were telling me some of this, that the last, but if I have to remove the semicolon, right?
Right. And so this is like idiomatic Rust will not use returns at the end. And Clippy is just trying to kind of guide you into the land of more idiomatic Rust.
Sure.
So rather than me do it, it's nice. We can have the tool do it.
So it's now, I removed that, and now it says returning the result of a let binding.
Right.
So I let it down.
So you don't actually need to make this a variable. You can just return life.
Well, not even return, just declare life.
That's right.
I've created life. Did I lose you?
Yeah, take all that out.
Okay, yeah, I got a stutter in my.
Yeah, my internet I've noticed recently has kind of waves of good and bad, so I may stutter from time to time.
Well, and I just also got an internet stream as unstable. I don't know what. Oh, that must have been coming from Zoom from you at that particular moment.
Okay.
Okay, so I made it better by doing this. Now,
that's right. So another Rustism is that they use the JavaScript shorthand syntax for initialization. So if you say width : width, you're saying too much. Just say width, and it will assume that you mean grab the width that's in scope and assign it into the structure.
Question.
Yep. Yes, you in the back.
Why is it now giving me an expected semicolon here where I wasn't allowed to have it before? Is that just wrong. No, okay, that's just a redundant sat error.
Yeah.
Oh, if I make the terminal teeny. Oh, and it has to rebuild the whole world because we did that clean before.
Okay.
I'm going to leave that like that.
I'm not
how
sure
about you close? I'm just...
Yeah.
It's
not even a thing.
No, yeah, the squiggle's gone. Okay, so you're saying this.
and no colon.
No colon.
Yep, just that.
Trying to decide if I like that or if it's making me uncomfortable.
Mm.
Okay. All right. That cleared that out.
Yep.
So is this basically the same exact deal here?
I don't know. I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it?
Well, if you hover, you can see the warning.
I was guessing unneeded return statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. So everything else is okay here.
Yep.
Oh, I feel like I want to state. So can you show Rust explain? Can I show Rust explain?
I don't know what that is. Oh, maybe it's the there's a command line thing that shows more about the error messages. I'm not sure if that will work for Clippy, but it might do. Maybe someone else knows. Yeah, I think this is more of the same.
Yeah, I was just curious what the... Oh, look, and now it's just...
Oh, how cute is that? Nice.
All right, now we're starting to get real here. So this has got to be the same deal again, right? Yeah, unneeded return. Come on,
so how do you get the... There you go.
And it automatically removes the semicolon here from it as well.
Yeah.
Now this one, by the way, since we're sitting here staring at it, this unwrap...
Right.
I'm like, let's see. So this one is taking my data, which is a vector of bool, getting the element at this index, and then just saying, just unwrap it. Because, right. Well, I figure from my perspective, if I'm trying to unwrap an invalid, I just want the program to crash anyhow, because I clearly have a bug in the software if it crashes right now.
Sure. The way I would do it is slightly different than the way you do it. Do you want to just kind of dive in right now?
Sure. I was just, looking back at the comments here just to make sure. 20 minutes and I feel like Rust is not that bad. Thanks. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So when do you use the return and idiomatic Rust for early returns? That makes sense.
That's right. Yeah. It's generally only for early returns.
And Christopher here is saying, why is the get unwrap not a warning from Clippy?
Because by default, Clippy doesn't have, it doesn't warn on unwraps. That's an additional setting that you need to set. I'm actually going to see what that is. Because I think it's one of those code smells for me. If you're just getting started, totally okay to use unwrap. If you're an experienced Rust developer, and you're in like the first few hours and you're throwing ideas around and you just don't want to mess with types, unwrap, totally okay.
Right.
If you're starting to put code out that people are using, now you're transitioned into that point where those unwraps should probably be looked at because you're making assumptions in the code that you need to be really careful with.
So is it possible to put like an assert before this statement and say, I assert that the result of looking this up, take this calculation right here and say, I assert that this dot get, or that value is going to be less than the size of the vector.
Right. I mean, an assert would also panic.
Exactly.
So if the assert failed, but would that change any logic?
So the compiler, I'm guessing, can't see
the compiler would not. Yeah, the compiler would not take that and then accrue that knowledge to the rest of the function. Unfortunately,
there are weird cases in C++ compilers where an assert on some value will then help the optimizer because the compiler is like, oh well, I know the next statement's impossible because we couldn't have gotten here with the assert.
Right.
It's rare cases.
Right.
So this person, Christopher's saying the unwrap is the assert. So yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, basically.
So just
you can use expect. Yeah, I like SimC. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Sorry about that. But the way we do it in new shell is we use expect in the cases that you were talking about before, Jason.
Like this
Like,
is a programming error. I want it to
this is a
crash.
programming error. I want it to crash. We're in a state that is completely unhandled and unknown. And
like that.
Right.
Yeah, honestly,
this
is, yeah.
Yeah, inside there, you would give a message to say, like, internal error, like you would ICE here, basically.
Right. Let's see.
Actually, it's not a compiler, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
This is
You're going to ICE it. No, wrong. Okay, so what would I built in assume? Let's see, what would I put here? What's a good message? Expect
unexpected indice out of bounds or something.
Yeah.
Index out of bounds. Internal Conway. Nice.
So this is like the hardest part of programming, right? Is picking like good error messages and good names. Like, holy cow. All panicking branches are marked as cold and unlikely, so the compiler will optimize with that knowledge.
Ooh, fancy.
At wrap. Sure, why not? Okay.
Yeah, so that's another way that you could do it. I do have, again, a couple of expects for cases like this. I tend to use a different pattern, which is I always, for things that can fail, I try to return a result like we were doing before.
Right.
Because then you can kind of get a good flow of your errors in your program.
Mm-hmm.
And like right now, if I look at the type of @wrap, so I'm staring at this as a developer in the documentation. It says bool to me. That tells me this never errors.
Yeah, and
but in factuality, it can.
Well, no, it can't. If it did, then because the entire point of this function is if you have an index that's out of bounds, it's supposed to wrap around to the next valid location. So it is 100% an internal error in my programming logic.
I see. So even if it goes around multiple times,
that is actually how I did. Yeah, the wrap coordinate function. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So then in that case, this is probably okay.
Now let's take this example immediately below it. This one is a user provided coordinate that does not wrap. This definitely can error.
Yeah. So then this would return a result of bool or your error message type.
That's like that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I would say, can you hover before we change the type? Can you hover get? Like you have data.get. Yeah. I'm curious, what is its
core result? Okay, that? Or error.
Yeah. What? Where is this coming from? Oh, is this in the vec deck?
It's a vec. Yeah, it's vec.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we talked about this in the last one. You can return a box of the error type, which is a kind of general catch-all for errors.
Okay. What is this comment here? You should probably return option because only one thing can fail. I am reading the chat. It's difficult to keep up.
Who's yelling at you for dozen?
I don't know. Nobody's 1707.
Someone's griefing you. Don't worry about it.
All right. Completions can be out of date if we saved in the last 2 seconds. We've seen, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and try to move to the error message type.
Okay. Yeah. So what do I need to do? Sorry.
So do box.
Here?
Capital B. Yep.
Okay.
And then inside that, I just tend to fully qualified. It probably looks weird to other people, but like std : error capital error.
There was someone saying they were just trying to be a little cheeky there and then reading the chat messages.
Okay. And then one more. Yep.
And then now
So you don't unwrap now.
I don't unwrap now. So if there's an error, it's propagated to the call trait objects without an explicit dyn are deprecated.
So we need dyn in front of that. Yeah, I always forget. That was something that was added in 2018. Also memory sped. All right, so type option. It's an option. Maybe that's what they were trying to say earlier.
Oh, yes. Git does return an option. Right. Okay, sorry.
Right. So then this would be an error. I mean, we could convert the option into an error, or we could just bubble the option out. Just say, like, this is optionally a bool. And if it is a none, then you've gone outside of our grid. That's a face.
I'm trying to decide what I think makes sense. Yeah, we did need dyn there. We got that in. We're a few seconds behind on the stream here.
Yeah. Maybe it's good to note that, something like 20 or 30 seconds or so behind.
Yeah, it should be, well, it should be less than 15, but it's not necessarily the way things work in the real world. I mean, in my opinion, it is an error, not an option, because I don't feel like the user, I don't know.
Yep. So you can convert the option into an error and then return that.
And that is...
off the top of my head,
do I need a pattern match?
It's okay or yeah.
Okay or okay or
yeah.
Or else or okay.
Yeah, I think this is what. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay.
But I think that's the one that converts it for you.
Someone said the stream delay seems to be about 20 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry. You're actually saying okay or.
Yes.
Oh. Okay or. All right.
Yeah.
So if it's
it's okay, fine. If it's or, it errors and then it does the next thing.
So I have to tell it what error I want it to return in the error case.
Right.
So, okay. So it's wrapping it in this expected result kind of thing.
Right.
Christopher's suggesting okay or else. Does that mean okay or else I'm going to give you, I don't.
Oh, right. Yeah, Clippy will tell you to do this too. So the Lambda will not get executed unless the else case happens.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's probably the more correct one.
Okay. So what do? I actually put in a Lambda here.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? What? I mean, I honestly feel like I have no idea.
It's the same thing we had before. We would create an error here to do it. So let's see. What kind of error do we want to make?
I don't feel like I am completely out of my depth.
So we're what we're doing though, right? We've got an option type, and we're turning from an option into a result type. So the thing that we don't have at the ready is the kind of error that we would return, because, and this would take a little bit of a sidebar to create one, but in general, you have an error type that you're using through your program. So like we have shell error in new shell, which is like a catch-all that catches all the different error types as an enumerated case. So we can kind of look in that enumeration, pick the one out that it is, and then act on it. But that allows us to use that question mark and then bubble up all the same error type everywhere we are.
Right.
Pedantic says you could use a string, so that would be one way to keep with a very similar error style.
It would be consistent with what we're getting from SDL.
But yeah, for viewers who are watching this, you generally want a more sophisticated error type.
I'm going to say something that sounds very intellectual. For the C++ viewers today, this is similar to the proposed nomadic interfaces for the algebraic types in C++ 17.
That's it.
I don't necessarily know what that means.
Nomadic?
Not nomadic, monadic.
Monadic. I was like, nomadic. They just keep traveling around. They never settle down.
So variant and optional have both had proposes out there to say something like this. You can do it okay, like this, okay, or else. So you would get the value back, or you would return an expected object, or you'd throw an exception, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, monadic, not nomadic.
Nomadic monads. Exactly.
Yeah, I was trying to sound intellectual. Didn't you all catch that? It was entirely intentional.
Yeah, Michael Rudder points out, says you have like one or two error types for everything generally. Like
pneumatic.
Yeah, so you may, if you have multiple crates you're using, you may map between them, but yeah.
So we're in the land for the sake of, someone just said this is like keep talking and no one explodes or something like that. I don't like the idea of using box and type erasure just to have a uniform error type. Yeah, sure.
That's a style thing.
Okay.
That's why, so when we use shell error in new shell, which is like our one unified error type, it's just the enumerated value. And any boxing that is required is like inside of it. So you don't have to box all the time.
So we can spend the next hour trying to figure out what the error type should be.
That's the thing. It's like, if you were going to take this and build it into a real application, you would make your own error type that is exactly handcrafted for your situation.
Let's say,
for the sake of brevity, let's just use string.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
All right. So do I then just make this string?
All of that would go away, and that would be string.
Okay. And
this is one of those, like, only do this at home if you're in SDL2. Apparently. Yeah. Right. Homer Simpson.
Yeah. I don't want the semicolon.
Yeah. You need to turn. So that is that ampersand str. It's like a string constant.
Yes.
And you need to turn that into a string.
Oh, right here you're saying?
Yeah. So it'd be .toString on your string constant.
Okay, so there's no implicit conversion from a string literal to a string object.
No, we tried to fix that, but we didn't get it in time.
Don't do it. I'm serious. Don't do it.
I think it feels like a bit of a paper cut that it doesn't automatically convert, but yeah, there are corner cases where the automatic conversion bites you.
Yeah, and then you have, countless times that I've had conversations with people that are like, yeah, we were looking into the performance of our large C++ application and found out that our 100,000 implicit string conversions and copies was actually killing the performance.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go figure. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, I had a moment in new shell. So you have the clone, and so every once in a while you're cloning for each frame or whatever. And we were cloning something in our processing, like a tight loop. And I took that one thing out. It was like 40% faster. I was like, oh, okay, clones aren't free. Yeah.
I don't understand why I'm still getting an error here.
All right, so what do we got here?
Did I actually get an error? Okay. Found ampersand bool. Oh, no, that shouldn't be.
Oh, because this bool that it's going to return is the bool that lives inside of your.
Yes.
Yeah.
So okay.
It's being really pedantic, but I guess that's technically correct, that value lives inside of the vector.
Now, a part of me wants to say, no, let's just make this a value thing. Let's copy this bool out, whatever, instead of doing the ampersand thing. But the other part of me still wants, ultimately, to my life game board to be able to be a board of anything. So there's a few places where I already made this decision. I'm like, nope, I'm sticking with the ampersand here because someday this is not going to be just bools.
Right. Yeah.
Scroll the hint.
Yeah, Indostrui pointed out that, yes, technically it's ampersand fixed static. It's just harder to say. Okay, so what is the error for self now? What is this one?
That's vestigial. We need to remove it.
Vestigial, yes.
It's like an appendix.
Evolved past that error yet.
It's an appendix. Secretly, it's a critical portion of our immune system.
Right.
But as far as we've known for the last couple hundred years, we just cut it out whenever it causes a problem. Do you still have your tonsils?
I think so.
I definitely don't. Someday is not the part of over-engineering, Leslie. This is just good design at the moment. I can give Leslie a hard time. I've known him for a while now.
All right, so we got some more errors and warnings we can chomp through.
Okay. Oh, you're right. So let's see if F8 magically takes us to the next thing. Mismatched types. Why did this just now?
Because the type of @ is changed.
Oh, because it's now potentially that error. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So now Conway rules also needs to, it's kind of, once you start returning the result type, it will kind of find its way up and touch the other functions, the other calling functions. But that tends to be a good thing because now you're doing value-based errors instead of, I don't know, it panics somewhere deep in the stack. Hey!
Okay.
So here, Conway rules would also need to return a result. Same kind of deal.
No, not this is a value in this case.
That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah. Or whatever the proper terminology is.
A question mark after alive.
After alive.
I mean, yeah, at the very end of that line.
Oh, okay. So this will then automatically propagate up the error.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just out of curiosity, since I'm wrap return expression in okay.
Right. Because now this whole thing can fail. Yep.
Is that vestigial again?
Yeah, but I would do, I guess you could, yeah.
I don't like that. That makes me queasy.
I don't like that either.
I want to see if it's just a, yeah, that was a vestigial warning.
Okay.
All right. So out of curiosity, if I had not done the @ question mark, I've already got pattern matching here. Could I have done a pattern match, expanded the pattern match?
Yeah, you want to do that?
I want to know what that looks like, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to Control Z back a little bit. Okay, there we are.
So now, so you're pattern matching on alive and the neighbors.
Yeah, the neighbor count.
And that's fine, but I think it can be distracting to do both pattern matching on the pair, like creating a new pair, but also wanting to pattern match on the inside of it as well.
So this is what I did implicitly. This parens created a new pair object or something that contains the bool in this. Okay.
That's right. So this is just my style. This is not to necessarily recommend it to everyone else, but I would say match alive as the top level match so that you would know, okay, I'm in the okay case or I'm in the error case.
Okay. I'm gonna write it as a new block so I can compare the difference here. Now I have so many questions because object lifetime kind of things. So if I put this in parens, am I making this like a tuple of one element and copying this thing into this? What just happened here? Is it supposed to be in parens?
It would be a short-lived, I mean, it's an object with a very short lifetime.
Okay.
It would, yeah.
And now plausibly not expensive because
potentially. If I were writing the compiler backend, I would look for a pattern like that because it's intentionally used only for the pattern match. And so you only really need to match the contents to make sure the contents line up.
So, but it is at least conceptually, this thing that I've put in the parentheses has to be copyable.
It is not. No,
It's
it's going
not a
to
tuple.
move and
No.
yeah,
I think it's just going to move the value, not copy it. Oh, okay. So
yeah,
it's
yes.
taking the thing. Okay. Wait a
Yeah,
minute
yeah.
now. Some
And
people are
yeah, in
saying
this
it
particular right.
doesn't
So
make a
just adding
difference.
parens is not making a tuple yet. You have to put a comma in the parentheses or make multiple things.
Okay.
Jason was using a shorthand to communicate to say like I don't worry about what else is in the tuple. Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, but this is fine as well.
Yeah.
Lines 121 and 122 can be combined into a single line of _3. I guess that's true.
That is true.
That is true. Okay, but you were saying now you would match on nested levels. This is your personal preference?
That's kind of my preference is to if you're trying to understand if you're in the failure or success case, I try to get that first before then I start adding on to making a tuple of that into something else.
Now I feel like I have honestly no idea what this looks like because now I've got this result thing that could be a thing or a thing. What does the match look like now?
Right. So you have two cases. It's an OK of your Boolean value or an error of your string result.
So that's like okay.
Yep. And then paren.
Paren?
Mm-hmm. Because did we talk about enumeration in the previous episode? I forget.
We had an enumeration that we dealt with, but we didn't really dig into it.
All right. So this is going to create, there's a payload associated with the enumeration. So OK has a payload that is the success value, and error has a payload that is the error string in this particular case.
Okay. So now
when you're pattern matching, you're matching am I OK or error? And then once I match, I'm also pulling out, like I'm assigning to a variable the contents, that payload with the enumeration.
Okay. So so a paren, open paren here after the OK?
Yep.
Okay. And then this is the value that the identifier that I want the OK value to go into.
That's right.
Okay. So something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? Now what actually happens here?
So now you've got the is alive.
Yes.
So it's true or false. And you can use that, for example, to do the true or false that you're doing before.
And is that now another match statement or an if or a ternary or any of those things?
Yes. Yeah, you can use it as you can create another match statement.
Do I use this fat arrow here though? That's the part that I'm okay. So if I wanted to create another match, and now I want to match on, do I need?
Well, so because it's only Boolean, you could say, I think someone actually mentioned this. Yeah, Leslie mentioned, you can say, okay, true, okay, false, and then your error case, because it kind of code condensing.
Okay, I want to see what this looks like. So
yeah, so you can do it that way.
So
now you know you're in the true case.
If it's okay, and then I can match on everybody needing good neighbors.
Right.
That's wow. That's old Australian soap opera Neighbors. That's a thing.
I'm assuming that's what they use.
So.
Yep.
Vals. No, that's
true.
That's true. Okay, I like for my own personal, like I'm very curious what this ultimately can look like, and I know that there's going to be people right now screaming about the different ways that this can be simplified, and that's what I really
am. Fine.
Yeah, I want to know that. Yeah. So if it's and then
now you've got the error case.
Well, no, I have the not the error case. I have the rest of the cases as well.
So at the top level match, it's only ever possible to have OK true, OK false, and error, right? Because
Right.
it's the OK is wrapping a Boolean value.
But I have to do this then in each case.
That's correct. That's correct. You
Yeah.
have to have a catch-all.
This seems like it's not the best possible solution.
It's not.
Oh, people are mentioning the Neighbors TV show. It's not a US thing at all. No, I would watch it occasionally when I was living in Belgium, watching British TV as a kid in the 80s and early 90s. So, yeah.
So a couple of people, I see Simpsy and Pavel and a few others say that you can do 2 bar 3 and you can condense 117 and 118 into a single line.
Okay, let's have a talk about that because I saw this syntax. And then let's see if I can get the error here.
Yeah.
It says...
Yeah. So a couple of things. To get this to work, you'll need to comment out the match starting at 127.
Oh, right. Block comment. I love how like the entire program is like, you failed. Okay.
And then you have to wrap this in OK because this whole thing needs to be wrapped. And then you have one more case, which is the error case. And that's going to complain you have a missing arm.
Are you serious? Ah!
Yeah, that's what match arms. That's what they're called, match arms.
So that's the error.
That's the error case.
Okay.
Yeah.
And error. And then in that case, I want to what?
Just return error. You could just say error. Return error.
I have to return here?
Yeah, well, because the reason is otherwise OK is wrapping your error string, and you don't want that.
Okay, now this I find. Wait a minute.
All right, so what error is this?
Mismatch type, expected, blah, 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 blah. Found. Oh, so I need to actually wrap that
error, error. Yeah,
error. Can I just say return the thing?
Yeah, you have to name it.
Excuse, it could use some nomadic functions. I agree.
So all right. What's a slightly cleaner way of doing 124? So you know it's an error of error.
Yes.
And that's the only thing that this case can be, is an error of an error. Right?
Okay. Yes.
So we can just bind that last step to X or something like ERR under like lowercase. So it's a variable.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay.
And then fat arrow and then return error.
So it hasn't unwrapped it or whatever here. It's
That's
just
right.
Whatever the last remaining case was.
It's what? Okay, now we're in the weeds because it has tried to. Oh, come on. What?
That's my fault.
It should be the error type.
No.
Huh? This is weird. Go back
no, it makes sense to me because alive right here is in fact a reference to a bool or whatever. It is this ampersand bool. That's why it's complaining, but I was returning not ampersand bool.
This doesn't feel right. So go ahead and save this and build this again. What does it say?
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So the crowd is telling us, make a ChaiScript interpreter in Rust. Oh,
there is one.
Kind of. That's what John did as soon as he started learning Rust, just for the record. So it's called Rhai, R-H-A-I, right?
Yeah. I'm going to type it in the chat.
I'll just pull it up here. Not Thai. I said Rhai.
Stop outsmarting me.
Seriously. So yeah, this is one of the first things that Jonathan did trying to learn Rust, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Someone says that we should use alive.
What is alive?
I don't know.
I don't know. Um, so this error message is still confusing me
Well,
because
the types are
why?
definitely mismatched
Yeah, but how?
because result.
But you're not returning that Boolean.
I am returning that. I'm returning the original. Oh, I see your argument. Well, so this isn't.
Oh, so we do have to unpack the error. Okay,
Yeah,
gosh. Okay, okay.
I think I'm okay with this, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to get slightly more fancy, but in this case, the errors don't, the types don't quite line up.
So I'm going to complain for a moment here. I think
Go ahead.
because I swear when I tried to do this terse syntax, it gave me a that is an experimental feature error. But it
Right.
might have been because I was doing it inside the parenthesized match. That might have been when it was erroring for me.
I see.
Like
It's possible.
I think it was doing it down here.
Right.
Please don't return
Yeah.
references to bool. Yes, the original version was nicer. We wanted to understand what the options were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to understand what the options were. So this
So
version,
this is another style. Now it may be a little heavy-handed for just messing with bools, but
right?
if I were doing like multi-step pattern match, this is the kind of style that I would use. Something like this.
So just out of curiosity now, someone says, please don't return references to bool, but I feel like calling it a reference is wrong, right? The ampersand there.
Yeah, it's you're borrowing into the memory of something that lives at the same length of time as your life parameter.
But the Rust compiler is supposed to be smart with all the things, and if I tried to do something wrongly with it, then it would, right?
That's correct.
And
Yeah.
and as just for the sake of those who are joining late, I'm intentionally wanting to leave the ampersand here on many of these things because where I want to someday make it different.
Yeah. Right. It won't necessarily always be a Boolean. It may be some custom type.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've seen this, do we just want to go back to
This the other style. Yeah, I think it reads a lot better, personally.
So I need this question mark here and say just
Yeah,
return the last error if that's the thing that happened, and
that's right.
then come back here and do this, and then to go
Wrap that in.
with
Okay.
that.
Yep.
And then I'll let the light bulb do the work.
Let the light bulb do the work.
Okay, questions. I had a question. Does the order of these matches matter?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
it's going
what?
to, yeah, it's going to do the first one, and then if that fails, do the second one, and so on.
Oh, and someone said I don't
You
have
can just
to
turn that into underscore.
unwrap the whole thing or whatever you would call it, the words there.
Destructure.
Okay, so now my Conway rules don't match this expected type in my life object because now it returns this thing.
That's right.
Which now I'm going. Okay, yeah. So in this case, I am saying what should the next new state be, which
Right.
is correct that this doesn't have an ampersand. I'm
It's
not.
yeah. It has no owner.
Right.
Yeah. No owner in the past that you're referring to.
Okay. So this is interesting. I kind of. My brain thinks that this is slightly harder to read because I'm not used to the syntax, where I go look at this and I can kind of mentally line it up.
Sure. Sure.
But that's just me.
Yeah, I think that's something you'll probably get used to, seeing the catch-all underline at the end of a match, just as this is the one that falls through. It's like the default or whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna do this. Because someone just suggested that this is also an option.
It is.
Someone suggested it.
That's cool.
I'm just gonna stop hovering the things.
All the things.
Golly, for my case here, for my how do I want to say this? To me, we're starting to lose readability again by putting
Yeah,
all
I
the
was just
match
going to say
statements on
that.
there.
I was just going to say that you can compact things so much that it's actually harder to visually look down the line and get the logic in your head at one look.
And
So
it's not like we're losing efficiency or something here.
right,
I'm quite sure. I mean, like, I don't
we would
know
have to look
anything.
at the assembly,
We
but
would
yeah.
have to. But I don't, I feel like I don't know anything about the Rust, like, compiler. But if you're saying, oh, I'm going to do this because it's more efficient, then I would say,
Right. Oh, speaking of efficiency, I had an idea for this stream. If people are up for it, or if you're up for it, that I was playing with last night, that I thought was really cool.
okay.
There is a benchmarking tool that I had never really sat down and started using.
Okay.
What is this thing called?
I'm going to fix my Conway rules. I'm going to
Sounds
fix
good.
my next value here. Sorry, while you do that.
Okay, so this benchmarking tool is called Criterion, and it does statistically significant benchmarking, which is pretty cool.
Okay, that's similar to Google Bench, then, I believe.
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar, but it could be.
Yeah, I'm just translating for the C++ people on the stream. So it basically it runs as many times as it needs to until
it
it's a
heats the
statistical
cache
exam.
and then it samples and then it gives you like the upper lower bounds, and then you can run it, update your code, run it again, and then it'll show you if you've gotten faster or if you slid backwards. It's pretty cool. It'd be fun because I know that you love like optimizing and drilling in and getting the best best runtime.
Let's all right. I'm gonna start just removing these things, I guess.
Yeah, there was the you need to take this semicolon out.
Oh, okay. Someone just commented here. People think that sounds like Criterion RS is based on Haskell's Criterion.
That's right.
And someone else suggested that I should be using the macro version of matches. Matches exclamation. Please try the matches exclamation macro. I don't know why.
I'm not sure. So I'm a bit allergic to using macros for simple things, for things that, and that's mostly because I tend to like to look at the code and know what it's doing, and macros will obscure that.
Okay.
Same reason that I wouldn't necessarily want like, I don't know, it feels different than functions. I don't know what it is. Not to say that I never use macros, it's just I try to be a bit judicious about when I use them for readability.
Okay. I need to take a couple minute break if we're going to keep going.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Then you can man the stream for a moment if you would like, or you can also take a break. We'll be back in just a second.
I will actually watch the comments a little closer and answer any questions if people have questions.
All right, sounds great.
Does anyone have questions? We've mostly been just giving Clippy the run of the mill and fixing what Clippy was suggesting so far. Can we please talk about leaving out the last semicolon in random non-function blocks? It's one of my favorite Rust features, even a small one. Yeah, we might have an example. I know he was using some lambdas earlier, and you definitely do that a lot when you're writing lambdas. What do I think of type inference? I use it all the time. I think that's one of the things that in Rust, because the type inference is a lot stronger, you tend to rely on it a lot more. Not to say that it doesn't have its quirky corner cases, but I think by and large, it's definitely a big help. What's the main thing that you like about Rust that C++ doesn't offer? We haven't really been showing it very much, but the the amount of static analysis that Rust does by default, especially around who owns the memory, who can manipulate the memory, whose job it is to delete it, gets you out of a lot of problems. So that's why back when I worked at Mozilla and they were working on Rust, the intention was to rewrite part of Firefox with Rust so that they wouldn't have some of the errors that they were having when they wrote it in C++. Oh, Lloyd, that's a great question. Compile time regressions for new shell. I would love to track that. We have not been tracking it. And as projects tend to grow a lot larger, you tend to have compile times sneak up over time. Would it be useful to replace nested for loops over the grid with map? Absolutely. Something that I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to in this stream is that if you're using maps, it's trivial to take a map and then turn that into, for example, a parallel iterator. So you can do the whole run of the array in parallel.
Ooh.
I'm not sure we'll get to that though. There's a few things we need to do before we get there.
Oh.
I don't know. How does payload for enumerations you mentioned earlier work under the hood? Some sort of pointer in the wrap value. Yeah, Nathan, I'm not entirely sure. I know that they try to keep it very tight. So enumerations have a little bit of an extra tag on them, but it tries to be very memory friendly because it's used so much. Yeah, Moons, I don't know. Variadic and const generics win. That would be awesome. But I looked at D. What do I think? I haven't looked at D enough to have a serious opinion. I will say that the D compiler is extremely fast. Yeah, Thomas, you had a question about how to find my error as string. The way that you would do that in Rust is to define a way to translate from string into a custom error type. And then that, so we do this a bit in new shell, though I don't know where exactly to point you at some examples, but yes, there are ways to do that. Yeah, and Batul has that's one way to do that, which would be to create a type alias. But there's also a way to automatically convert from a string into your error types. We talk about tuple structs. Let me get life as an iterator. Yeah, we may be able to get to that point. I'm not sure how long we're going to go today. But CSS selectors for traits, pretty interesting concept.
I just reached another point where if this code fails, it is a hard programming error in my code. So this right here, because I was just struggling through while you were answering questions and trying to clean these things up. So what was that?
Yeah. Expect? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I would actually have the error bubble out of drop, but that's just me.
But if I did, then this loop is fundamentally wrong. That's the only way this can fail.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, that's how in the world is the user supposed to deal with that?
Right.
It's like an assert, in my opinion. So my wife is cooking bacon right now.
And you can smell it?
I can totally smell it. I am in the basement, and that is not right. Just for the record. This is where okay. Expect or unwrap is fine here, says Christopher. All right, my programming sensibilities say if I keep doing this same loop with the same expect, because it's impossible to get here, I need an iterator. I need some different way of solving this problem because I don't like writing the same code more than once.
That's
I don't know where you want to go from here personally, Jonathan.
We could kind of experiment. I wasn't entirely sure about, so the iteration is iterating over these XY indices.
Yes.
And that's so that you know where you are and your two-dimensional view of the array.
Right.
And can look around your neighbors.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure how to enumerate and still get the same kind of view, because you'd be looking at you'd kind of like zoom in at the one part of the array.
Okay, can I write a coroutine or a generator or something like that that generates all the possible XY points? And then iterate over that?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay. What does that look like? I'm going to go into my life.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. That's actually not going to solve the problem that you were talking about, though.
Well, it at least gets rid of the two nested loops. But you're right.
You a single iterator, but you still have, like, the compiler can't tie the logic of the width and height to what you're doing later to say, you're doing stuff that's in the right bounds.
My neck is getting green screened. Is it? I can't look at my own neck.
I know. You have to get it just the right angle.
Generators are still unstable.
Yeah, you'd use just a normal iterator.
Okay. I want to know what well, I have no idea. You have a plan, theoretically? Or some of a plan?
No. What do you want?
Okay.
Actually, I have a bunch of notes, but whatever.
I have an idea.
Wherever.
I have an idea, and I would like to see. I want to see what generating this, all the set of possible XY points, or iterating, or what is that? What do I do to make that?
So to do that, actually, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna look this up too. Actually, let's just pull it up here for the stream, so you can.
You want me to pull it up?
Mm-hmm. So what you're gonna need to do is make something that we can implement the iterator trait for.
Okay.
And then this is the thing, we'll just keep calling next, and when we call next, we'll get a pair out, which will be the next pair of indices. Right. So what we're looking at is what we would ultimately be making.
Okay. I don't know. I've just Googled and now I'm here. So just tell me whatever you want me to do.
So you scroll back up to the top. Yep. So it says required methods, next, ampersand mute self, and then options. So the option will be the type of the thing that's being returned. And I guess for us, that will be the next pair of indices.
Okay.
This is what you wanted to implement?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
So I was kind of thinking like we would make a struct and call it like Walker. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Sure. Outside. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, make a struct first. Yeah.
And then
this is going to be the I guess the width and the height, and then the current.
Oh, I need the width and the height too, don't I? Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to spin those types around to the right side.
That's freaking.
I'm expecting some Serbian any minute.
I have to be perfectly honest with you. On some of these things, I'm like, I'm doing this. You can actually ask Jen, because I said this out loud too. I'm like, some of their design decisions were because it was easier to write the parser, not because it's easier for the programmer.
So that's actually not, well, okay, in this particular case, you got 22 and 23.
Yeah, I know.
In this particular case, this comes from the OCaml background. So Rust ultimately comes from OCaml as a style of OCaml. And then they began to add more and more systems features to it. So in OCaml, you put the types on the right after a colon. It's just the style.
Right. Yeah, maybe it wasn't this particular case. Oh, it was when I was like explicitly mentioning template or whatever generic names, and I'm like namespace type or and I was ending up like with some code like this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm like,
Turbofish. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's to save the parser writer
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah. There was some weird ambiguity. I don't remember the history, but yeah, Turbofish has a long storied history. I'm just going to grab a couple of questions while you're going, Jason.
Oh, so, yeah, sure. Okay. No, I guess I'll just start doing this.
Yeah, there is SIMD support. Yeah, there is. I'm not as versed in that area, but you can just search for it. Yeah. Yeah, and some of the crates do use it just to kind of speed things up when possible.
That's interesting.
It's literally... Frank's got a fun fix. That would be one way to do it.
Are you talking to me or are you answering their questions?
Oh, I was just saying that some of the people in your chat are coming up with some pretty clever ways that you can do that iteration.
Oh.
But let's actually implement this because you haven't implemented Iterator before, just to see what this looks like. This may not necessarily be how you would make this ultimately, but it's good as an educational thing.
Okay. Do I nest a type inside of myself?
Okay, so what you want to do is impl iterator for walker. So this is a specific implementation of the trait for the walker type.
Like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then say underneath there, say type item equals, see if I'm correct here. Yeah, and then this is the thing that you'll return.
Did I do that right?
That's right. Yeah,
my guess. Oh, wait, I actually do use a semicolon here. I started to type it, but then sometimes the compiler gets mad at me.
I know.
I actually worked with one person who I'm like, in their C++ code, I'm like, you've got semicolons everywhere. And they're like, yeah, I couldn't remember like where they were needed, so I just started putting them everywhere. I'm like, well, I mean, it's interesting because today compilers will warn on it. 10 years ago, they didn't.
Right. I mean, it feels like something that the formatter should just do for you, so you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, in many cases it can, or remove them, or whatever.
All right, so here we go. Now we do the logic that we had before. So we'll kind of march our X and Y along. It's not a generator. So what you'll have to do is look at your current state and decide what the next state is from the current state.
Okay, dokie. Okay. That's what I was wondering. All right. So one thing I really wanted was to be able to like default value these things, so I didn't have to give them explicit values. I couldn't find any way to do that.
You can make a constructor. Would that work?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's called new, right?
Yeah.
That really messed with my head, just for the record. That's a function called new. I'm not actually newing an object of this type on a heap.
Right. It's not actually. It's not even a keyword. I don't think. I think it's just a static method on the type. Oh yeah, there's the default trait. Gosh, everyone's smarter than me. This is pretty rad. Like the collective chat. Yeah, there is a way nowadays. You can say, Christopher was saying, you can use derive defaults, and it will pick the default values for all the types, assuming they're defaultable.
Wait, what does that mean? Where do I do that?
So, above line 19,
yes,
you could say hashtag, oh gosh, did I just say that? Square brace, then derive. And instead of debug, use default, capital D.
Okay.
That may work nowadays.
plus equals 0.
This feels like one of those things that someone in a Rust interview would be asked to do on a whiteboard, and like no one wants to do this off the top of their head.
What I'm doing right now?
Yeah, implement an iterator for Walker that will walk across this array. It's like, no.
Do I need a return statement here? Because this is early return, not error. I want the empty option. How do I say there's no item now?
None.
So if I've reached the end, yeah, that's correct. Otherwise, I return x and y. No semicolon, because it's the last statement, and I'm implicitly creating a tuple.
Right.
Explicitly creating a tuple.
Right. And the two cases of an option are sum and none. So that'll have to be a sum of your tuple.
Not sum. Sum.
S-O-M-E, yeah. Like something, sum. So, and another set of parentheses around that. So you're returning the tuple as the payload.
Oh, these parentheses inside it, not around the whole
That's
statement.
Right.
Okay. I was like,
we're close, but I have to remind you that x and y are members, as are width and height. So you'll have to say self.x, self.width, self.y.
Oh, right. Everywhere. Yeah, so when people, I've had people already asking me like what my opinion is, and I feel like I don't really have enough of an opinion on Rust. But some of the, like the fact that it doesn't have implicit conversions, it's really ironic because I wanted to hate that because I didn't know how to deal with it. But I constantly teach people to not use implicit conversions in C++.
Right.
So then I was just hating myself, and so then I had to find a better way to deal with some of the things. And then for the rest of it, some of these things, like I feel like the self dot, yeah, I don't feel like I should have to do that. You know who I am.
Yeah.
But it's a relatively minor complaint, I think. Yeah. So I think this looks correct to me. Is anyone commenting on my logic here? Please use if and else instead of early return. I mean,
yeah, you could do it like that.
you know,
and then no return.
Yeah, I can see that.
That is slightly cleaner. That's slightly cleaner, sure.
It's ironic because this exact code would generate a warning with modern clang tidy analysis. It says don't use an else block when it's unnecessary, basically. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm just, whatever. To me, I find both readable. I don't have a problem with it.
Someone says it's going to skip the first coordinate.
It would, you're right. And my IDE...
Oh. It's not going to have 0, 0.
I've got weird errors happening. Okay, I had a network interruption problem. Sorry about that, everyone.
You seem good now.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not going to have 0, 0. You are right. I did this to make this check logic a little bit better. So...
Yeah, random person alone. I agree that there was definitely a lot of conventions around should you put M underscore, should you name your members differently so that they stand out from the logic, and having to put self dot does give you like a immediately obvious way that it's a member. Yeah, I think. I think you could, right. I think what Christopher is saying is right. So you could return the old value first and get yourself ready for the next one.
Yeah. So then I'm going to... Okay, and then the lack of plus plus.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
But, you know, whatever. ChyScript doesn't have postfix post plus plus either. You
Right.
know.
So you would return self dot orig x, orig y, right?
Yeah, well, not self dot.
Or not self dot, but yeah, orig x, orig y. Someone said Swift doesn't have increment operators either. Interesting. Maybe they kind of fell out of fashion. I don't know.
So, and this needs to be not self dot, but if the one that I am trying to return now would be out of range.
Sure.
So, okay, I save the values. I set myself up for the next round. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay.
Plus plus largely considered harmful.
I don't know about that.
0, 0 can never be the next item.
Huh? Oh, maybe they're saying in Swift they're considered harmful. Interesting.
Let value equals if
Wow. You knew someone was going to have like the fancier way of doing it.
You know what? I am curious about something.
What's that?
So if I did this is a tuple of things.
Yeah.
And now I need to check to see if the value I'm getting ready to return is out of scope. How do I call this thing? What is this? Value?
It's value dot zero.
Dot zero?
Or yeah, dot zero dot one, whichever the member of the tuple it is.
My brain said no language allows an identifier to start with a numeral.
Yeah, I think it's a dot one. Yeah, and that's why. So it's a numeric constant, and it knows at compile time if that's inside of the tuple or not.
Now I feel like just like if this were a C++ tuple, that I've in a way lost some semantic information now, because at this point in reading this function, I go, wait, what is dot one? And I have to mentally look back up here. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying this is a bad solution. I'm just saying I feel like I have lost something.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, what sorcery is this? This has got to be some serious like language, like I don't know, fanciness here. Okay, mismatched types. We still have like compile errors now, though.
We're just happily making an iterator.
Wait, actually, what is this mismatched type? Where did that?
I don't know. You're flying.
No, I just hit F8 and it took me to the next thing.
Oh, weird.
Like I'm not even using this thing yet, right? So it shouldn't be an error. It doesn't need a semicolon after it, right?
Nope. So that looks like there's no error there.
Yeah. So I hit F8 to take me to the next error. It was just out of...
Yeah, so now you need to put the message inside of expect.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Oh, we didn't finish implementing our iterator.
Right.
Whatever, in simulation.
Sure.
Whatever, because I want to come back to that. I really do.
Sure.
Now let's just see. Where's my last remaining?
Looks like you got 2 more errors.
Yeah.
If you build, you might get rid of that one.
Yeah.
Or not.
Mismatched types.
What?
Expected bool found ampersand bool. Now that this is an ampersand bool, I have to do the thing.
What? Why? I thought, right. Yeah.
I think
Yep.
that's correct.
Yep. That's right.
I'm actually like these errors. I don't see the errors now. I mean, a lot of them. I'm not just like, what? I'm like, oh, okay, that's starting to make some
Yeah.
sense.
Progress.
Yeah. Found. Wait.
Scroll down to the bottom and you'll see what the error is.
Expected struct life found.
Life
Oh,
result. Okay, so you needed a question mark in there somewhere.
because the next is now returning a possible errored thing. But this is actually an error that means that if I were to get an error in this particular case now, that means that the person, what do you call it? My parameter, my game of life function pointer, the function pointer that I passed in, has a bug in it and maybe having an actual meaningful error here.
Right.
I would say this is no longer like internal to the system, impossible to recover from.
Right. So you might do a pattern match there and see if it's the error case and then report something to the user.
So how much like if you're reviewing code and you see question marks everywhere, are you like, okay, we need to have a talk?
No, that's actually quite expected. So have the question marks. Yeah.
So that will just bubble up here because this thing is already returning the string. And we just to reiterate, I want to make a comment about this right here. Nobody 1707. I barely understand the ownership model. I want to talk about that real quick. But right. So to reiterate, having everything using strings for its errors is not good practice. It's just what we're doing because that's what the SDL library did. We didn't want to overcomplicate this code review. Okay. Now, the person who commented that they don't understand the ownership model, I had the ownership model trip me up like exactly once while working on this. And I said, well, that's bad C++ too. So what am I going to do about it? And I came down here and I wrote this Lambda to create and push in the very first element into the history. So I didn't have an extraneous named object on the stack that I didn't know what to do with and who currently had the ownership of it. And that cleared it up. That's what I would have done in C++. And so this is how I write C++, is I try to minimize the lifetime and scope of objects and have them returned efficiently from functions, let the compiler deal with it. It seems like that approach pretty much works in Rust as well. That was my take on things.
Yeah, can I give you one idea here, actually, to tighten that up a little bit? So you're doing an iffy in Rust, and ifs in Rust, they're kind of rare. I can't think of many cases where I've seen them.
Okay.
So in Rust, you can just have a curly scope, and at the end of that, it returns the value, and everything else gets scoped out. Yep.
It's effectively the same thing.
Yep.
Okay.
And then this is not right. There's no intermediary Lambda created. It's just all the temporaries scope out, and you only return the last thing.
Yeah. And for the sake of the listeners here, if this in C++, that captureless Lambda is like guaranteed to be optimized away. And it would have effectively been the same thing here. And then we can rely on return value optimization to have optimized away any copy or move from out of the function, the Lambda call there. Yeah. Okay. Someone says something like Perl. At what point has your language reached its evolution if it's being compared to Perl?
When it looks like line noise. No. Sorry, Perl programmers.
I had someone who, a friend of mine who actually, as far as I know, he might even be listening at the moment, was a professional programmer expert in Perl for a long time. And I believe he is glad to no longer be programming in Perl at this point in his career. Okay, so we just created this thing. I want to use it.
Let's use it.
All right, so this is my iterator walker. So I need something in my life to return an iterator, a new member function. Okay.
So yeah, do it that way. Sure. So the function could be right. Sure, Johnny Walker.
And it doesn't need to be mutable because it only has to copy out its XY width, or its width and height.
That's right.
And then I started to type R, but I don't want return here. Right. I'm going to call Walker, and I'm going to initialize its...
I think you put a dot first.
I did. I can't because I was falling back to C++ 20 member initializer syntax.
Yep.
Does it matter what order I put these in?
Nope.
Now, because I did that default initialize thing, do I have to also initialize the others?
You're still going to have to do everything because in this case, you're using the most basic style of initialization. So it's going to require you to fill in everything. So on line 65,
I have to explicitly.
You need to give it a type.
Is there like, can I do that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just go, okay.
Yeah, type inference works really well inside the function, but as you cross the function prototype, like the function signature,
right,
that has to be fully, like a fully real signature.
Your clippy here is whining at me. They had to have named it Clippy. They had to have named it Clippy because of the Microsoft thing.
Of course.
Okay. Like that has to already, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is perhaps not ideal. I should have added a new method that would just took the width and height.
That just takes in the width and height.
Is that, should I do that?
That's what I would do.
Okay.
Nope, not there. So do
right.
Yeah, Impl Walker.
Yeah.
So not inside the iterator because this is only for how to implement.
Oh, it was this.
I'm like the bumpers on the side of the bowling alley.
Yeah, Clippy had to be because of the Microsoft Office thing. That's the only logical explanation for the naming of that. Yeah. Okay, now this is the other thing, yes, that I was going through this like struct and then the impl things down here. I'm like, they also did this because it was easier to parse. I'm sure of it, but maybe I'm wrong because you can implement multiple different things. The fact that the struct and the implementation.
It's also a bit philosophical too because the structures are values and functions are separate from values.
Okay.
So like the mental model becomes you've got values as one thing and values is one thing and functions is another, rather than necessarily marrying the two.
Right. So.
Yeah, we're not going to end up using default. It looks like we'll just use new instead.
I'm just going to steal this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, there. And the self doesn't make sense anymore. So I just do that, right? That's now the canonical way of doing this.
That's right.
And as long as I'm not actually utilizing this at the moment, then I do that. And now this thing. Oh, I should have left it. Oh, okay. Walker.
You got it.
It is kind of, it's like I have a conscience telling me
the compiler is kind of sentient in the background.
No, I'm referring to you.
Oh.
You're my rusticy cricket or something. Okay, so now that I've created this thing.
Let your cousin be your guide. Sorry.
Okay. this is the first place where I can use this. Now, how do I actually use this iterator now?
All right, so now we got to, right, in, self dot.
Self dot. Not self dot self.
Whoa.
Who am I, man?
So I think we called it self dot walker or something.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that it auto completed. Self dot walk.
Okay.
I'm gonna walk all over myself. Myself was made for walking. Okay. Is that?
Yeah.
Wait, something didn't happen right here. What did I just do? Oh, I took out the important part of the function. Or the loop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking good.
Is UB a thing in this language? No. If you do things like overflow an integer, you get a runtime error no matter what. I did encounter that while I was.
Yeah, that's just a little asterisk on that. If you're in release mode, it will, I believe it does take that check out, but in debug mode, you'll catch the overflows.
Someone just said there's a 2-line solution with iterators.
Maybe you should bake the next value thing into the iterator. Yeah, I think Trolled has some good ideas for like future refactoring that we could do to clean this up even.
Yes, that is what I wanted to do next, actually, because I want all of these for loops to be simpler. This is my goal here. So I need the X and the Y and the current value. I think I just understood something. Oh, no, okay. So my walker, if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to have the next value baked into the walker, then it needs a reference or whatever to the life, right?
So right now walker is going to give you the indices out.
Yes.
And it's going to walk through that.
Yes.
If you want to go the next step and have the walker give you out the next value,
yes,
then it would need to be able to see into the data set that it's walking across.
Right. Okay. Well, let's UB is why everyone loves C++. It's partially true, actually, because the set of undefined behavior is one reason why the compiler can optimize so well, because it can remove all the impossible things.
Right. Which can be fun times if you happen to find yourself in UB accidentally.
Yeah. So I'm going to walk on over myself again here. Maybe I won't replace all of my loops this way, but I'll want to do one more just for the fun of it. I want to do my randomize.
Okay.
Boop. And doop. That's how I program. Make fun noises to myself. All right. I'm going to hit play on this. And then, I mean, we've been going for 2.5 hours.
I mean, I'd be curious if it actually works still.
That's great.
Hey! Nice.
I thought with a little bit of tweaking, this could make quite the little trippy, like 8-bit screensaver kind of thing going on.
Yeah, for sure.
You'd be like, whoa. Yeah, you can see my, every now and then this restarts where there's another glider forming.
Oh, right. And so it's like smacking into
there.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
And so I did parameterize. I mean, like things like whether or not it wraps around, that is an option. That's a lot of the code that, we looked at. That can be disabled or enabled. And I did test that works. I'm totally missing all kinds of tests in this code.
Right. Yes. I wrote that down to mention, but it sounds like we're not going to get to it, which totally could.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can make tests to see if the life calculation is correct for, like a 3x3 cell or something.
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, the things that are known, convolutions. these spaceships. They have yeah, they each have their own period, right? So you could make these and say with a period of 2, like run the thing twice and make sure, or 3 times, make sure that it goes from the original
make sure
state
you're back at the original. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's totally doable and probably should have done that. Someone just said, please fix the remaining warnings. I do have remaining warnings. Equality checks against true. I know equality checks against true are unnecessary. Okay, I do this in C++ because there are things that can evaluate as true, right? Any non-zero value. I do this to make it clear that I am comparing against a Boolean.
Yeah.
But it seems your compiler doesn't like that.
Yeah, that's a clippy warning. So it's basically just saying like this is not necessary. As you change from a Boolean to a different kind of type for your cell, then that wouldn't be true anymore.
Okay. I think this is I feel like I learned something. All right, so what's next? What you had notes.
Yeah, so we talked about there's a fair amount of stuff that we could talk about around traits and implementing traits. I think we talked about implementing the iterator, and that's a good example. You have the function pointer, which could ultimately also be something that you implement as a trait. So next value would be a method that came from a trait that you implemented rather than as a function pointer.
So this iter, sorry, I'm taking one step back and then because I totally missed the thing that you just said. The function pointer. Because I was staring at this. So I am saying I am implementing the trait called Iterator.
That's right.
And then that trait has these required functions. That's what we were looking at earlier.
That's right.
And
it has one associated type, which is item, and then it has one method called next.
Okay. And oh yeah, that's a good point, by the way. This did actually seem to work correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then you were saying function pointer is not necessarily the ideal way of taking my rule set.
That's right.
Okay.
So there's probably a couple ways that you could do this. I was thinking last night, once I looked at your code a little bit and I was trying to brainstorm. Depends on what the thing is that you want to do. You could implement like a rule set for life, and then inside of that, you could change what the rule set was. If you wanted it to be more generic than that, you could say that, say life has a parameter that is something of a particular trait, like the rule set trait.
Okay.
Like you could have something like rules colon, like a box of rule set or something.
And that would be... I'm sorry, I'm trying to...
So the way I was kind of explaining it would allow you to pass in or to set up life with any rule set without parameterizing life over it.
Oh, okay. Then I don't... Oh, so it would be something like... And I have to define my own trait called rule set.
That's right.
I see. Okay.
And then you would call into rules and say, all right, run the rules over this array, and it would run the rule set and then give you the result back.
Okay, my internal compiler just broke right here.
Okay.
Because if I'm passing in something of a... I haven't parameterized, whatever, life on anything. I'm just saying you can hold anything of this particular trait.
So let's fix that. So that's a good compile error for your brain.
Okay.
This by itself would not be valid Rust. Because rule set could be a type of any size.
That was my problem.
Right. And now how do you lay that out in memory? You've got something, 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 and dot, dot, dot. Like, I don't know. It's big, it's small. Who knows?
Okay. So yeah, I'm like,
Right.
what is this going to do? Some sort of voodoo magic here? Like,
Right.
oh, someone said that you have to put it in a box.
That's right. So that's what I was going to say. It's like um, the way to take the trait and then to get the V table for that trait would be to what's called take a trait object.
Okay.
And a common way to store a trait object would be to box it. So you're saying anything that implements this trait.
Like that.
I don't care what it is. Like that's totally erased. I just have a pointer to a table in memory.
But is it implying that has to do a dynamic allocation somewhere to be able to store this thing?
Yeah, well, yeah, this will be on the heap.
Okay. I found myself totally just like closing my eyes and saying, I don't know what's on the heap. I don't know what's on the stack. It's fine.
Yeah, all your vecdex and vex are all on the heap.
Okay. That makes sense. But so in this version, if I create a life object, it's just on the stack.
That's right.
And how if I wanted to explicitly create one on the heap, just out of curiosity?
You could do.
I know it won't compile here. I'm just.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you could just literally say box new of life, and that will put it on the heap. Like box : new, and then in parentheses, life. Or constructed life there. Yeah. So something of this form would then put that on the heap.
Okay, so 2 points. It's not the fact that it's called new that's putting it on the heap. That is just a member function. Mm-hmm. It is the fact that box keeps anything that it receives on the heap. And there's small.
And it kind of gives you, yeah.
Is there a small box optimization?
I don't know. I don't know what even that means, but
yeah, someone just commented that the compiler will sometimes do heap elision as well. That would be almost certainly a side effect of the fact that it is using LLVM's backend, which does heap elision. It's just like Christopher says, it won't, but it seems like it should be able to.
If it is, yeah, maybe it is an optimization that's many levels down. This is kind of still, at least as a programmer's like way of thinking, you're still thinking of it as the heap model.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So, right. Oh, and small box optimization. So all of the standard boxing-like things in C++ that might do heap allocation. Standard string, standard any, standard function have small object optimizations where they keep a small buffer internally. And if the object that you're trying to store in there could happen to fit in that small buffer, then it avoids the heap allocation and stores it in the small buffer instead.
Yeah. What Christopher said is true, I think. Said there isn't, but it can be easily be implemented. So in crates.io, you can find like small vector, I think it's small vector, something like that. So there's a few of the standard collection types that have small equivalents that you can use.
Yeah, and this is slightly different. This is like merging those things together. It uses the small automatically if it can.
I see. Fancy.
Yeah.
Making it polymorphic over rule set. I mean, that's something that we could do. I was just kind of showing Jason that when you implement traits and say you want to hide the implementer of that trait rather than exposing the implementer of the trait as a parameter.
Yeah, so it's type erasure in various forms.
Troll's right. We are going a little bit slow, but that's all right. But yeah, we haven't gotten to polymorphism yet. But that would be the intention, is to get to polymorphism.
Okay, all right. So tell me what you want to do next, or how long you want to stay on the air.
How's your energy? We can go.
I can go for a little bit longer. 30 more minutes.
You're the
maybe.
one smelling bacon.
I think that's mostly been cleared out of the air now. The AC is on. It's like 90
Okay.
today.
Gosh. It's like, what is it now here? I'm gonna say it's like 10 outside,
Actually,
but
yeah.
10 C.
We are.
It's
I'm
11.
so close.
11 Celsius.
That is 96. That's
Time to
hot.
go for a run, Jason.
That's like 52 Celsius.
It's definitely, I want to say it's like 40s, but yeah.
I think it's 40, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 40.
36.
Thank you for everyone outside the United States who has my back right now. That's awesome.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Tell me what to do. What you want to do for the next 30 minutes. Sorry.
So, do you want to see if we can implement rule set to see if we can get this to work?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, if that's an idea.
Yep. We can either do that or we can look at criterion and start seeing how to do optimization.
No, let's do clean code at the moment.
Okay.
That would be my.
Yep. So let's make a trait that we'll make the rule set trait.
That's fascinating. I'm sorry, I just found myself going. We're actually, if I understand what's going on here, actually taking steps that will de-optimize the code. Or at least because we now have a heap allocation and a 2-pointer in directions where before we would have just had a pointer to a function.
Right. So to that point, what I would suggest that we do is that rule set would take in the current grid of cells and then give you the next grid of cells. So it will run the rule set over that grid and then tell you who's alive and just give you the next snapshot.
Kind of what, because I'm only doing this for per unit, but it's closer to my...
And that would be, yeah, now you're going to pay the indirection cost per cell. And my inner like, whoa, hold on. I don't know if I want a vtable indirection for every cell lookup. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So it's basically moving my whole next thing out into the rule set.
Right.
Okay. All right, boss.
Right. So the way that we can do this is that...
Hey, it's a keyword.
That's right. Rule set.
I'm just typing things that that are being automatically suggested to me. It does. Wait, is VS Code tied into Stack Overflow yet? So it'll just autocomplete anything.
Not yet, but I'm sure that's a feature.
Someone just asked this question here that they're having a hard time with the lifetime syntax, and it looks like the correct way to think about it is not as my directions, but as me proving to the compiler that I'm safe.
Maybe that's one way to think about it. I tend to think that if you're just focusing on using ampersands as a way of like borrowing and temporarily giving up ownership with the hope of it returning, is to think about where these things are on the stack. So without thinking about the heap just yet. So as you make calls, you're kind of growing your stack and you're going deeper into the call stack. Just like in C++, you're still thinking about where that thing is on the stack before it gets popped off. So that's the way I think about it. With the ampersand, you're saying like, stay here, don't move somewhere else. And I will return, as those functions return, back to the original owner. And then that original owner will be the one, as it returns, to pop it off the stack.
It's like a Hallmark movie. Stay here and I will return to you.
We need someone to do some Photoshop, like, whatever, some animation across the screen. Stay here.
Okay. I have no problem with it, honestly, because like I said, I find myself on average structuring my code in a way that same way that I would in C++, where I always teach students to avoid calls to move and avoid thinking about these things by just structuring your code differently. And
Right.
Okay, so I have a trait that I've opened.
Yep.
What does it need to be?
Right. So it's going to take in the board, some right, like the grid,
the life
grid.
No, but I mean, can I just do that? What am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, so we're ultimately this thing. Traits
Yeah, what is a
are
trait?
Focused, yeah, a trait. What is a trait? A trait is a way to get access to methods that use the type that the trait is implemented on. That's one way to think about it.
Okay,
And
so it's
so,
like is it like an interface in Java?
kind of, yeah, it's a way, if you will, to overlay a set of additional methods on this type.
Okay. So I'm
So,
just now I just do it like a I don't know.
do the thing, yeah.
I
So
mean,
it's going to take in, yeah, maybe that's the way that it works, is it takes in well, the problem with life is that it has rules inside of it, which is a little bit weird. Um,
yeah, but
Maybe life wants a board inside of that, and then we give the rule set a board, and then it gives us back a board.
it's making me bored.
You don't like the board? And then the data.
Right, the data, not the rules. This whole wrap indexes thing is still a trait of the life at the moment. No, it needs to be a trait. I'm gonna have to move around a whole lot of things if I do this. A whole lot of
Yeah.
code.
You ready? Yep.
Is that ish?
Yeah. You got me a little bit worried about how much this is going to damage your current logic, but we're going to move stuff into the trait implementation anyways. So,
Well, okay, so if I just moved these things into the board, then I need to get, I don't know. What do I need to do? Take all of the...
yeah, some of these would be in the board. So randomize, like a board could randomize itself when
Yeah,
it's set up.
trying to decide which ones. Is the board randomized? The wrap, count neighbors? These all, like almost all of it is traits of the board, it feels like.
Right. Yeah, the only logic really I think that you'll implement is what was that function pointer. We'll turn that into the implementation for that trait.
Okay. Let's hope that we don't regret this too much. That'll be fine.
2 hours later, we're like, I don't know, maybe we should have saved this off somewhere. Yeah, so impl board, and then you can.
Wait a second. I just totally... Hold on. All right. I'm going to pull that back out. And I was just thinking we totally should have saved it, but it's too late now. Actually, no, we haven't saved it.
I think you're pretty close to having a working.
This is a working version. Bugs. That's my slang for
I should start using that. I think bugs.
your code's got bugs, man. All right. I already put
encoded in the. Oh, this is really cool. I like Ben's idea. So he's saying that wrap indices can be encoded in the rule set also. so you know whether or not you want to wrap would be in the rule set, whether it's going to wrap or not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. That's a good idea. All right. I'm just going to, for the moment, just slap this in here so that it's moved and we've intentionally broken the code in a predictable way. And then this next thing needs to kind of have two things happen to it. Like some version of this actually still needs to live down in the life.
So remind me what next does. Oh, it does the...
Yeah, it applies the rule set, and it's going to apply the rule set.
Right. And so in here, we'll call into rule set to say, give us the next life or the next board. So self dot.
Right. No semicolon. So I'm saying current rule set, increment the current, no, not me. Self dot
the board.
That's what that'll end up being.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And it's gonna, the board that it takes in will be a borrow of the board. We don't actually want to move the board.
Oh wait, what did I do? Yeah. This code is long. You should have put this in different.
I should have put it. You should have put this in a different files before we did this.
Now I have multiple things named self, right? So I have to do that. Oops. To say borrow a reference to it or something.
Yep.
It's like a lifetime checked reference. That's what I will call it from now on. It's not a borrow. Not for me. Works for me. Fine for me. Stream hanging works for me. Okay, there's a bunch of people saying it's mostly okay.
Oh, good.
All right. So, okay. All right. So, I don't really know necessarily what we just left off at. This is that's the board implementation. We just created a board. And now this thing, the rule set needs a board.
Yep.
And we did call that. We're expecting this to be called next. And it's going to return back a new
board. Yep. So next we'll need a name for that parameter. Yep.
Oh, it will? I thought since it was a trait, it shouldn't care.
It does.
And I have all the things backward, of course.
Of course.
Like that.
Yeah, that looks right.
Okay. And so then the rule set, actually, it doesn't need to be...
So the wrap indices would just be the rule set that we're using. So you could use like a Conway normal or Conway wrapped would be two rule sets that we would implement. And one would wrap around it and one would not.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just thinking I'm going to have to figure out, because that's going to have to get passed in at some point. We'll figure that out in a minute. Now, I need to move this trait below board and above the life.
Yeah, totally up to you.
Well, no, I mean, so it compile, right?
No, there's no ordering of definitions in Rust.
Really?
Yeah.
Fine, I'll put it above it. Just because I can.
Fine.
It's out of spite to my C++ compiler. Okay, so now I want to implement a rule set that is my Conway.
Yep.
I'm just grabbing my Conway implementation here.
So the way that I would do this would be to create a new struct, just call it Conway, like capital C Conway.
Okay.
And then we're going to implement rule set for Conway.
So it's an empty struct at the moment.
Yeah, it may have state later, but just for now. And then impl rule set for Conway.
Okay.
And then in here, we're going to implement, just like we implemented Iterator before, we're going to implement the
next.
Yeah, next. The thing that's going to give us the board.
Oh, I'm just going to leave that like that so that I can
Yeah,
call.
you're gonna want that helper function later.
Yeah, I am. It seems like at some point the IDE should be auto-completing for me here. Oh, so I made it so it's returning our, brilliant
the
string type
right.
here. Okay. So
and then that helper function will have to live outside of the implementation. So you could do impl Conway.
Wait, it has
then put
to?
the helper function. It does.
Oh, because this impl is specifically because of the rule set.
Yeah, that's right. You can think of this as I'm creating the vtable that you will pass around. And so the only thing that's going in that vtable is the stuff that implements that trait.
That's okay.
That's one way to think of it. There's probably other ways.
Okay, so I'm now going to steal this next function, which is inside of board right now. I don't want it inside of board. I want it inside of my Conway rules.
Yeah.
And that is going to go here. Yeah, okay, it's basically right. There's probably a more efficient way to do that. All right, so a mutable copy of.
Right. So we're not cloning the board because we don't actually need to.
We don't.
So we're gonna make a new board instead, because would be like writing into the new board.
That's what I do.
That makes sense.
I'm making a clone of the.
Oh, okay. That's fine. It will just have the old values in it, and then we'll immediately overwrite them.
Yes. I did that so that I didn't have to manually copy the width and the height and the blah, blah, blah.
I see. Yeah, so then you could do like board.clone here.
Yeah, okay. Maybe there's a better way to do that, yeah. I'm sure there's people telling us right now that there's a better way to do that.
I know. Let me keep an eye on the chat. They'll probably know.
Okay, so I can no longer call.
But that's not a life anymore. On line 40.
I didn't do it.
That one you did actually.
Oh, you're right. I did. Why did I do that?
I don't know. Oh, board doesn't implement clone yet, so you're only going to get a reference back out.
Right. Which means my life doesn't actually necessarily need to be clonable anymore. Oh, yeah. Never mind. I'm just gonna leave that out as whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those things where there's a lot of moving parts. If we can just get it settled back down and working, then we can kind of clean it up and optimize it.
Yeah. So okay. So I need to walk the board.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that?
Yeah, that would be walking the original board. Yep.
But it didn't. I don't have that function in. Yes, here we go. I don't have that function in the board yet. It's still down here in the life. This is exciting. So much stuff.
So many stuff.
Okay, rule set, Conway, board, impl board. I want to walk the board.
Yeah, this desperately needs a formatting too.
It does. It's terrible. You should never have let me got to this
I can barely read it.
I don't have any idea why anyone would put up with this. Oh, okay. I don't need to call this next thing anymore. Now I want to call my own Conway rules.
Yeah.
And this, all right, I'll do one reason I didn't do a format is I didn't want it to go all out of state while everything was wonky anyhow. Because I know some formatters are not happy if there's a bunch of syntax errors, which is fair.
Right.
Okay, Conway rules. It doesn't take a life. It
takes anymore. It takes a board.
And the board does have the ability to count neighbors.
Yeah.
I probably could have done refactoring to say change the name of this parameter.
That's all right. You'll need a capital B on 23.
On 23. All right, capital B. And now at this point, my stream has now devolved into the
fix the little errors.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't need that method.
Oh yeah, that's the prototype. Or whatever. Yeah. Impl rule set for Conway. Next board. Do this thing. Oh right. So
okay. Yeah, and then that goes away. And then that will be Conway rule. Or self dot Conway rules.
You're watching the stream? Because I'm
What's
not.
That?
I said, are you watching the stream? Because
the chat?
Yeah.
No, I should though. After saying I was trying to be better about it. Can we shadow your parameter if you don't need it anymore? Yes, you can shadow the parameter. Once you do, then you cannot see the original one. Unless it's in a scope hierarchy pop-up. Let's see. No, they said they've been quiet. Take by value instead of clone. Yes, you can do it that way. We might do that as an optimization once Jason gets it working again.
Missing structure field, board, and rules. Okay. Oh, we're going to have to deal with wrap indices here in a moment. Indexes. Okay.
And then data is part of the board, I think.
Yes, right. It is part of the board. I'm sure all this needs to be fixed at some point, but the smarter constructor. And, okay, now what do I do? Because this now is...
So now, yeah, so this is going to be rule set :
Oh, rules. It's just rules. Okay, yeah.
Oh, rules, yeah, sorry. And then box new. Box :
right.
new.
Okay.
And then we'll pass in, I think we can just pass in Conway. Like we can construct a Conway here.
Okay. And it doesn't have any state, so that's okay.
Right. To get this to work, I think you have Conway curly right now. If you just say Conway semicolon, it's like struct Conway semicolon, then this will work.
Where? Oh, at the top?
At the top, yeah. So this is an empty struct.
Right.
Or they might have a different name.
Trait rule set cannot be made into an object. I'm just going to recompile just in case.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting one to fix. Because reasons. Let's get the full
Because
error.
associated function next has no self... Oh.
Okay, so we have to give it a self parameter. Okay.
Yeah, right. I had to add the self parameter so that I could see into my own Conway rules.
Right.
Oh, but Conway rules don't need... Wait, I don't need a self parameter.
So it's going to want that for making a trait object, I'm guessing. Oh, you do, because self, well, you're using self in there.
I'm using self. I don't need to use self.
Right.
I can do that.
You can.
I mean, if there's no state, then let's not have any state.
Right. Yeah, it does. Some people are saying it does need to take a self.
Oh.
That's kind of what I was remembering also. So there are some rules to take a trait and turn it into a implementation of a trait and turn that into a trait object, meaning you're erasing everything behind it and only having the fact that it's an implementation of the trait. So this is just just a thing.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it can't have a vtable without a this pointer. I mean,
right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, everyone's saying it's part of the dynamic dispatch logic. I totally believe that.
Wait, did it compiled?
No way. Look at all the red.
Oh. Okay. Like, what the heck?
It's like, that's magic. How did it do that?
No field wrap indices. Okay. All right. So this is my @wrap in the board. So who calls @wrap?
I feel like at some point the rule set should say, I am a wrapping rule, so I'll call the wrapping version of @.
I agree. I just have to remember how I did that. Yeah. So
right.
That's called by count neighbors only. Okay. What order does it make sense to put these in? Put it over here. It looked like you cannot have default values for parameters.
That's right.
Okay.
I had to think about it a second. I was like, in TypeScript you could, but yeah, I think in Rust you can. I would do it on the outside. So I would say if wrap, and then do that whole nested block.
Yeah.
Outside of that even.
Oh? Nah, it's fine.
Okay.
That's
too much optimization.
It's not optimization. Any compiler will move that out if it's a constant value.
Mm-hmm.
And since I know that you're using the backend from yeah.
I think it's just @.
Yeah, it's @. Yeah, got that backward. What is that called? Yeah.
Else if can be collapsed. Oh, that's a clippy warning.
Oh.
So you've got, yeah.
Clippy. Now what are you warning about?
So you've got, yeah, the if needs to be else if on line 77.
I'm not convinced that's going to be satisfied either. This is an else if, but the formatting might hide it. Well, then reformat it.
And then you don't need parens around the map. All right, what's this?
Expected bool got result. Oh, because this is the non-wrapping version now.
Right. So that needs a... well, you could just for giggles for now, you can just dot unwrap and then fix it later. What? Oh, we have to do
that's fine.
Oh, okay. So it actually simplified the code a little bit. That'd be nice.
You know what? I'm just going to do something real quick. Excuse me while I undo everything.
I'm afeared.
No, it's because I wrote this code, so I'm just going to pass forward this wrap into the function that was checking to see if it should wrap.
I see. So it should just be @
Now I'm just well, for the moment we'll do this. We'll worry about this later. We're reaching the 13th hour of the stream where we know that the better thing to do is to just get it.
Right.
Okay.
And then you hit run, and then what was it, Quake or Doom?
That was Doom. Yeah. No function or associated item named wrap chord for struct life in the current scope. Oh.
So that should be board, right?
Yeah, that should be board, yeah. Because that was a static function.
At wrap, or maybe not.
The trait dying rule set blah 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 is not satisfied because the requirements of clone for boxed dying rule set required by what do I do?
Michael, I also treat unwrap as to-dos that just kind of stick out at me now.
So it won't let me clone something that has a boxed rule set in it. Oh, because the rule set itself is not clonable?
Right. You have to say that what's inside of it is also clonable. So I think you have to say like Fox clone plus the type.
Okay.
So where was that?
I don't know. There we go.
Right there. So rule set.
So it's requiring something that's both of these traits.
Yeah. We're getting some warnings. Oh, these probably have to be like dying or something.
Trait objects without an explicit dying are deprecated.
Yeah. So it's like clone plus dying rule set.
Several people had been like commenting on that.
Dying plus. Yeah, I think what you're doing was actually correct. Dying plus. And then dying space clone plus. Yeah.
Dying space clone plus rule set something
rule set.
something.
So join.
Only auto traits can be used as additional traits in a trait object. Clone is actually incompatible with trait objects since it returns the type by value. So I can't make my life board. My life board can't be clonable anymore. Or my
That's fine. But what we really care about is that board is clonable. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm still going to get. Oh, sorry. What? Oh, I need dying here again.
Yeah. Cool. We're getting there.
No method named set found for mutable reference life. Okay. Okay. So this is my draw blinker, draw glider functions. I'm going to not worry about those at this exact moment.
I was just going to say, like, just comment them out.
Yeah.
And the allow unused needs to go in that comment also.
Oh, was it not? It was not.
I guess it's fine. It'll apply to the function below all of that.
Yeah, let's not randomly apply it to random functions. All right, no field named rule set in life.
And it was rules?
Yeah, it was rules.
Is that a rule set?
Rules.
And that's going to return a result of board string instead of life string now.
Yes. So how do I want to do that?
I mean, I guess there's a couple options. You could just make a new life and then put the board into that life.
Yeah. But then I have to make my rule set clonable, which I can't.
No, I mean, create like life curly and then put the board in that this comes out with.
Right. But I have to create a life with the proper rule set, right? Like I have to create a new rule set each time.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
So I'm just going to have this continue to return a board.
Mm-hmm.
And someone just told me I need to do cargo check instead.
Yeah. Oh, instead of build. Yeah, it should be doing that automatically. I think it's something with his setup that's causing it to not run automatically.
It's the IDE that's not getting cleared up, whatever's going on.
Yeah, it's just getting stale.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Randomize. So this would be the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost there.
I know. 6. Pretty good.
Okay. This is what I needed to now deal with. So the history now needs to be not the life, but a history of boards, which I knew was going to happen.
Right.
So that's a history of boards. My actual... I'm going to have a single life object. I think this is... this might not make sense. This might end up needing... Yeah, this is going to cause a couple of other things to break, but it's fine. I got it. All right, so the history of life is going to push back the current board in the life. And I don't need these extra braces anymore. And border. Okay, so I've got a life. I've got a collection of boards. This is going to break a few other things. It's fine. Now I need to draw.
Draw should take a board, probably.
Yeah, it is now a board. Oh, right. So I have to change draw to take a board. Right. That's the next thing that was going to break.
If it's any consolation, as we're doing this refactor, the code is looking better and better to my Spidey senses.
Okay.
So I feel like one of the things that we did was we disentangled the logic of life from boards, which makes the code a lot more flexible going forward.
Okay. So I no longer want to get... Okay, so this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. Actually,
No
this becomes
next
weird.
For reference board.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was just reading the error. What were you thinking?
Yeah, so the problem is now the history is a history of all of the boards, because that is really the main state. And the life object contains the rule set plus the current board. So if I did this and I say that, so that's giving me the next board, then I need to do this and say update yourself, which that's not ideal. But now when I want to push back, let's just unwrap that automatically. When I want to push back the next here, I have to explicitly clone it, right?
Yeah, you'll have to clone it on line 260 because next, that's when you lose the ownership of next.
Okay.
And then you don't need to clone there.
I don't need to clone here. Okay, that's backward than I would have.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, before you give up final ownership to the VecDeck, you're saying like, okay, you get a clone, and then the last thing I have, all right, this is it. You get the last one.
You get a clone, you get a clone, everybody gets a clone.
That's right. Look under your chair. 2 problems. Sweet.
Takes 3 arguments, but 2 supply.
Oh, I guess we have to know if we wrap or not. Do we want to wrap?
Wait, is that? Oh, right. Sorry. You're right. Brain's starting to shut down. And also the keyboard shortcuts that I have set up for myself and CLion are not here, so I can't easily navigate.
Right.
All right, so we're going to say we are the wrapping Conway rules.
Sounds good.
Vestigial error. Borrow of moved value life. Wah, wah.
So why did life get moved?
I don't
Because
know.
there's, yeah, if you compile and look at the full output from the error rather than looking at the IDE's version of it, it should give you a little bit more history about when something got moved, who owns it now, and then when you use it afterwards.
So you're saying here.
Yep. Like if you do a cargo check there,
Okay.
a cargo build.
Value borrowed
Right.
here after partial move. That sounds really awkward.
So if we look at 239, we should be able to eyeball this a little bit. Yeah. So the board has been moved out of life and is no longer right. So we can clone that. That will just be the easy way to just get up and running. Yeah, let's do it that way.
Well, I think because I have, at any given moment, I have two notions of what the current board is. I have the one that was...
Yeah, you've given up your current board into the history, and then you try to use it afterwards.
Yeah, no, I get that. But I'm just thinking probably the more efficient way to do it is to render myself and render the history, then render myself, and then on the next iteration, push myself back in. So I never have two copies of the current state. That would be a more smarter way of doing this.
Yeah, that would be a nice cleanup. I agree.
Yeah.
Ah, did it build? Holy moly.
That would be a good time to shut down. All right.
At least check the code in.
Yeah. Okay. So we did a trait. We still have our pretty graphics are doing what we want them to do. We have a couple things to clean up for like how do we want to now like place new objects onto the board or something if we wanted to do that. It's idea. I mean, it's lots of things. Yeah, we don't want to be calling clone everywhere. We can make that better. There's no question.
Yeah, it's totally okay, like, for the first pass to clone and just get it working. Just like unwrap, get it working. And then as you refactor, as you think about the code, over time, you're going to remove the unwraps and probably remove clones where you don't need them.
Did I do that right? Traits? Yeah, okay. I feel so naked here without my
your shortcuts.
Yeah, well, my auto completes and whatever, because I didn't really set up this VM to do all the things. So where we would clone. It's really just these couple of places here.
Yeah, and we can get rid of some of these. As Jason, your refactor that you were just talking about, I think would get rid of at least one of them.
Yeah. This one, I think this one's necessary.
Say, like, this is a pretty good like stopping point in terms of you've now done the full separation. It's working. You could kind of go one more revolution and do like remove some of the clones, but this is when I'm looking at this code, I think it's definitely getting cleaner than what we had before. History of Life, Volume 1.
So, no, if I push back, I want to do this because I want to see how the borrow checker, whatever, does this. You probably need to go do something else with your life, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So basically, you give it the first random board, and then you set yourself to the next one?
Yeah. So then the borrow checker shouldn't care now. Like this should have no warnings, no explicit clones in it, right? Because this one's going to take ownership. The the history is going to take ownership of the current one, and then I'm going to replace the current one with the next one. Everyone should be happy with that.
Yeah, you're going to turn the crank and lose that first generation, but...
Yeah, but that's okay because the rest of my code can handle that. I already took into account the fact that it might be empty because I do a len check here and I do an iterate here. So I'm pretty sure the rest of it will be fine. Now, the only problem...
saying this is erroring, so we'll see when we try to build it.
Okay. I want to know, yeah. Whatever. Life.board. And I'm at 100%. It's the bright one. Okay, so it's right here that it's erroring. Mismatch type board. Oh, okay. Yeah, that has to have a valid value.
So it looks like we've got one use of. So life is part of it has been moved. Life.board has been moved.
No, because life but has type board, which does not implement copy trait.
That's basically what it's saying.
Okay.
So if something was copy, it wouldn't move it. It would just call it a copy trait. But because it doesn't have that, then because you've moved life.board and then called life.next, it's no longer life.next is no longer valid.
Oh, because because I just stole the board. Right.
You stole the board.
I stole the board. So what this needs to do then is an exchange. Oops. I have lots of things named next now.
Next.
So it is here, this next, which is the life, needs to return the last board and assign myself the next new board. Is there one single command to do that in Rust?
Return the last board.
I want to do like...
Oh, no. You'll have to assign it to a variable or something.
Oh, okay. So... You probably do need to go, huh?
Yeah, we can wrap it up here soon.
Yeah, I still have the problem that I don't have the last old state.
Yeah.
But at least this feels a little bit cleaner in some ways.
Yeah, I think so. I think the snapshot that you checked in, like you're saying, some of the next, you're using next a lot. So you're basically making an iterator again.
Yeah.
So that would be something you could explore, making the rule set an iterator, and then it just, its job is to give you the next board. Yeah, there's a few things like that, but I already think that it's decidedly more readable and more closer to idiomatic Rust.
Right.
Nice.
Memory place. Several people are saying stood memory place.
Yeah. Fancy.
Oh.
I don't use that. I feel like I always just deal with the borrow checker, but maybe there's a...
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll stop here. Okay. I think.
Good.
What has this been? 3.5 hours. That's good enough. Yeah. I could eat something or something.
Before we call it, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Could kind of maybe a few minutes of questions at the end.
And I will see if I hit my personal goal for today.
What's your personal goal?
I have 49,947 subscribers. I was really hoping by the end of the stream to have 50,000 subscribers. So if you're listening right now, all 53 of you who are listening and you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. All right. Sorry, are you getting any questions? Doesn't look like it.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, if you do, we'll stay on here for a few minutes. But thanks a lot, John. Definitely learned more things for sure. Going to unsub? Oh, come on. That's not nice. Ooh, I got 10 just by doing that shout out. That's fun.
Nice.
All right. Then I guess since no one's asking you any questions.
Will there be another session like this?
Oh.
Yeah, we could do. If Jason wants to do another one in a few weeks.
Yeah, let's give it a few weeks. I got a few other things that I want to do for my streams, and I really don't have the energy to do 3 hour streams a week or something like that. It is really quite tiring, actually.
It's pretty epic.
That's an unfair question to ask what language I find more concise to write in C++ or Rust, because I barely know how to rub two sticks together in Rust. And I have at least some sort of a grasp on every major feature of C++. And I'm not going to claim to be an expert in every feature of C++. That's impossible, but I at least understand them.
Would you be willing to do a CLI app at some point in Rust? I definitely would. I don't know if Jason's up for that, but
I don't know. I mean, if I already did a GUI app, a CLI should be easier, right?
Yeah. And one of the main side projects I have is called New Shell. And yeah, it's a CLI app in Rust. A lot of fun.
Someone wants the 50K. Let's see. 49,966.
You're most welcome.
Still not quite there yet. All right. I am going to shut it down. Thanks a lot, everyone. Yeah. All right. I'm going to hit the stop streaming button.
Thanks all.